VA Medical Center a makeover. Anna Marcos takes us there as the plan is unveiled.
The West LA VA Medical Center is meant to house and care for our most vulnerable veterans. But in recent years, it had fallen short. Now, in the wake of a lawsuit, the Veterans Administration is unveiling a master plan that would rejuvenate the VA Medical Center and put it back on track, providing both housing and care for veterans, especially the homeless vets.
Veterans of Los Angeles deserve a VA campus that can be a home for those who need one, or a home away from home for those that come here for their medical care.
One of the cornerstones of the plan, building 1,200 units of permanent housing on site.
It's really about putting the veteran first.
Also in the plans, a town center and new medical, recreational, and social amenities, as well as other supportive services.
We can meet veterans' needs across their spectrum of needs, not just housing, but the mental health and the dental and physical health care, the healing of their souls that we need. And that is the legacy of this land.
If we don't provide the services, we end up seeing them in the county, whether it's in a trauma center or in our streets.
Among some of the changes here, a new medical director, close to 100 new staff, a new Welcome Center shelter with 35 beds, and a transitional program. And more than 4,000 vets have been housed with the help of city agencies. But some veterans say officials aren't doing enough.
There is a culture of delays, denials, and deprivations of benefits and services. Equipment, physical therapy, for example, equipment dates back into the 1980s, and much of it is broken down.
This is not for the weak at heart. This is going to be a multi-year effort.
So as a veteran, this is very important to me.
No word yet on how much the plan will cost. Officials say it will be slowly phased in. The first order of the day, passing a new law needed to start building the permanent housing. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The VA administration is also handing out 800 new HUD housing vouchers to homeless veterans, and plans are underway to open 300 shelter beds for vets throughout LA. While Mayor Eric Garcetti and the City Council marked African American Heritage Month with a special celebration at City Hall. Anita Bennett reports as part of the festivities, Lionel Richie was presented with a Living Legend Award.
With music and a who's who of stars, including Lou Gossett Jr., the city of LA kicked off African American Heritage Month with a celebration on the South Lawn of City Hall and a special recognition for Lionel Richie.
The greatest thing that ever happened to me in my life was I met a group called the Commodores. And I always say this every day, thank God for the Commodores, because without them, I would have never met Lionel Richie.
The musician and philanthropist who grew up in Tuskegee, Alabama, now calls LA home and said he was honored to receive the city's Living Legend Award. While Richie did not perform, he did sing along as local musicians, including Eric Benet and Shantae Moore, paid tribute by belting out his songs. Inside City Hall, Richie talked about the importance of his award, and he had a message for critics who say there's no longer a need for Black History Month.
If you go and look at our history books today, it still leaves us out in terms of the total story. If you want to learn Black history, you have to take a separate course in Black history, opposed to making it the main part of American history. So I think without a doubt we should continue to have Black History Month, week, day, forever.
Richie, who over the span of his career has won 4 Grammys and an Oscar, was also singled out by Mayor Eric Garcetti.
Mr. Richie, on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, it is truly my honor to present you with the Living Legend Award. Come on forward.
Council members then recognized 3 other prominent African Americans, including Cal State Dominguez Hills President Willie Hagan, California Board of Equalization Chairman Jerome Horton, and California Appeal Court Justice Audrey Collins.
I couldn't accept this award during African American Heritage Month without acknowledging my ancestors whose sacrifices brought me to this point.
Collins went on to say her grandfather was a slave who could not read, but she excelled because her parents instilled in her the value of education. At City Hall, I'm Anita Bennett for LA This Week.
Justice Collins was appointed to the Court of Appeals by Governor Jerry Brown in 2014. Well, is increased construction of Hollywood high-rises helping or hurting the poor? Councilman Mitch O'Farrell weighs in at his yearly State of Hollywood address. Gil Reyes has more from Taglian Cultural Center. Gil.
Well, that is right, Yana. Councilman Mitch O'Farrell's annual State of Hollywood address inside this crowded ballroom touched on a number of topics, including homelessness, public safety, and the very controversial topic of development in his Tinseltown district.
We should think big, dream big.
A standing ovation for Hollywood councilman and big supporter of local development, Mitch O'Farrell. Speaking to business leaders, O'Farrell opposes plans that could stop construction in Hollywood.
This ballot measure would be a direct threat on the production of affordable housing.
He's referring to a proposed ballot initiative led by Michael Weinstein, his AIDS Healthcare Foundation, and the group Coalition to Preserve LA. They accused the city of breaking zoning laws in order to speed up construction of area high-rises, including 2 planned skyscrapers to be built behind the Hollywood Palladium. Some say these projects only benefit rich developers, while squeezing out longtime residents who can't afford to live in these new buildings. Weinstein's proposed ballot measure could delay construction for years, but O'Farrell says that will end up hurting everyone.
So when people who are promoting this talk about, well, it's only luxury housing and we're chasing away the middle class, the reverse is true. The reason housing is getting more costly over the city is because there's a shortage. So market rate housing prices will come down when the production goes up.
And O'Farrell says affordable housing for the poor will be included in these projects. Supporters also say increased development will create much-needed construction jobs.
The developers invest in the community, and it's that investment that improves the community. When I came, Hollywood was practically all parking lots. Now we're filling in those parking lots with exciting projects that upgrade the community.
As of deadline time for this story, the Coalition to Preserve LA was trying to gather enough signatures to put their measure to delay construction on the ballot. Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
The city has set a goal of building 100,000 new housing units by 2021. Well, a new LA app could transform the way we use transportation. Anna Marcos was there as city leaders unveiled the new Go LA app at the city's Automated Traffic and Control System Center.
Whether you use a bike, a car, a bus, train, or rideshare service, LA now becomes the first city to make getting around town as easy as clicking a button on your smartphone. City leaders showed off the Go LA app, a team effort by the city and Xerox to give Angelenos more ride choices.
Go LA is your brain. It does all the thinking for you. It calculates different routes available and lists them by sooner, cheaper, and greener. And you can see not only the length of your trip, but also the price, the number of calories burned, and how much carbon dioxide is released into the air.
Angelenos can download the Go LA app from the Apple or Google Play Store.
When I was using this app, I was able to plan my trip from my couch before I left the house.
Transportation is a huge contributor, somewhere between 35 and 40% of greenhouse gas emissions. And so the more we can make it easier to make for people to make a sustainable choice, overall, the better it is.
And coming soon, within weeks, the app's creators promise a new feature that will allow you to book any ride and pay for it right at your fingertips.
You go out on the street and you don't know that there's a bus about to arrive around the corner. You don't know if there's a zip car in the garage. You don't know if what it will cost on taxi versus Uber versus Lyft.
But now the Go LA app will put you on the map, wherever you are, wherever you want to go, and whichever way you want to get there with just one smart click on your mobile device. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
Now, another feature coming soon to the Go LA app is a partnership with the Waze app, which will give consumers real-time information on accidents and other road delays as they happen. Well, the LAPD and LAFD go head-to-head for a good cause. A new LAPD facility on the west side brings the whole community together, and Ted Watkins Park in Watts gets a few upgrades. All these stories and more in City Beat. The Los Angeles Police and Fire Departments recently competed in the 9th annual Battle of the Badges Blood Drive. LAPD, LAFD, and other law enforcement agencies competed in a friendly contest to see which department can donate the most blood for the American Red Cross of Southern California. In the end, officials say it doesn't matter who comes out ahead.
I think it's a win-win situation for everybody if we all just donate.
Officials and community members recently gathered for the opening ceremony of the LAPD Pacific Community Center on Culver Boulevard. The 5,000-square-foot center includes more than 50 workstations, community meeting rooms, and a children's library. The facility will serve as LAPD offices as well as a gathering space for youth programs and community events.
It is a sweet, beautiful, state-of-the-art office space for dozens of cops.
It signifies a vision, a dream, partnerships, and the community coming together to make something possible.
Cal State Northridge recently hosted its 19th annual High School Art Invitational, where students and faculty from 38 high schools across the San Fernando Valley showcased their artwork. Each school submitted 6 different works, including paintings, ceramics, sculptures, video, and animation.
And it's nice for the students to compare themselves and their artwork with other student artists here in the Valley.
Councilmember Joe Buscaino hosted a ribbon-cutting ceremony to celebrate the 103rd Street Streetscape Improvement Project at Ted Watkins Park in Watts. The enhancements include landscaped median islands, a gateway monument, access ramps, benches, bicycle racks, decorative crosswalks, and sidewalk improvements. The streetscape project was made possible thanks to the Department of Cultural Affairs and the Bureau of Street Services.
This is a year we've reflected on the 50-year anniversary of the Watts Rebellion. There's no better time than now to see this kind of positive change influence here in Watts.
It's an alarming statistic. 25% of adults in Los Angeles don't have a high school diploma, but the LA City Library is helping with free online courses. Gil Reyes has more from the program's first ever graduating class.
I feel great. I'm so excited and happy that I finished.
Holly Maidens, a single mom, had dropped out of high school years ago to care for 2 sons and a mom suffering from cancer. Today, she finally earns her diploma through the LA City Library's Career Online High School. Maidens is now enrolled at Pierce College, pursuing a career as a social worker.
Because of this program gave me the confidence to go to Pierce and be able to pursue my dreams, as before I didn't.
The LA City Library graduates its first ever online high school class. Around 30 students, all between the ages of 20 and 50. They completed courses within a year and a half on average, oftentimes in between jobs.
They do it online, they do it at their own pace, they do it with assistance and help from our library staff, and it's just been an incredibly successful program that now libraries across the country are now replicating.
LA City librarian John Sabo says 49 other public libraries nationwide are following LA's lead by establishing their own online high schools. But LA's public library was the first.
And this library system was there at the right moment to just be the enabler of your hard work. We opened the door up, but you today have walked through that, through the hard work that you've done.
In my case, I'm from Mexico City. Back there, I had the chance to complete high school. But here, when I wanted to go to college, I couldn't, because I couldn't transfer my credits. So this program was the perfect fit for me, because now I can go to college.
And yes, the online courses are free. From graduation ceremonies at downtown Central Library, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Now, you must be at least 19 years old to apply for Career Online High School. Register at lapl.org. Well, Councilman Jose Huizar's Bringing Back Broadway initiative just entered its 9th year, and Angelinos from across the city came together to celebrate. Rich Samuels has more.
I don't know, it just feels like a good vibe.
Young and old, families and friends, artists and performers, everyone was there for Night on Broadway.
It's about arts, culture, and bringing back these beautiful theaters.
Bringing back Broadway is Weezar's 10-year plan to revitalize the Grand Theaters and legendary business district that was once the center of business and tourism for Los Angeles.
You know, there's no place like Broadway anywhere else in the world where there are 12 historic theaters on one block, one quarter. Next to New York, you probably can't find this anywhere else.
Night on Broadway opens up many of the historic theaters for spectacular performances and reintroduces festival goers to the vaudeville and movie palaces that stood vacant for years.
And then we went to the $1 Million Theater and we saw a cabaret show, and that was really fun.
Inside and out, the choices for entertainment was seemingly endless, from a silent disco to artists at work to something called chess boxing.
We saw a Tesla that had it was like a cop car, but like instead it was a Tesla.
It's very diverse here, different ages, different colors, different races. It's amazing. I think it's very beautiful, you know.
If these incredible crowds are any indication, I think we can safely say Broadway is back. This is Rich Samuels for LA This Week.
Well, if you missed this year's Night on Broadway, you can start counting down for next year's edition, which takes place on January 28th, 2017. Well, it's time to play ball as the LA Clippers kick off their youth program meant to keep inner-city kids off the streets and on the basketball court. Wearing brand new professional basketball uniforms, these kids are playing a friendly game of ball, being coached by former and current Clippers players. The Clippers, YMCA of Metropolitan Los Angeles, and the city's Department of Recreation and Parks teamed up recently to tip off the 16th annual Junior Clippers program.
Events like this that can keep them for a few months out of the streets for some of them, or to help them with their basketball, to get them involved in the basketball growing up. Some of them, probably going to make friends here for life. But it's good. It's good to have activities like that for kids.
The gym at the Los Angeles Center for Enriched Studies was filled with parents and family members watching their kids play in the annual tip-off event. The Junior Clippers program has grown from 750 participants in 2001 to nearly 24,000 kids in 2016, serving inner-city children between the ages of 5 to 15 from 11 LA recreation centers.
That's what the Clippers is all about, really inspiring great engagement and great outcomes for kids.
Kids have a chance to play competitive basketball, learn about cooperation and how to work as a team. The goal of the program is to promote the fundamentals of basketball, integrity, sportsmanship, and athletics as an alternative to negative influences. LA City officials say the program has had a positive impact.
The community itself gets behind it, not just the kids, but the kids, the parents, the siblings, everybody who comes and participates. It's really something of recognition, ownership.
Recreation centers selected to participate in the program are from underserved communities in Los Angeles. The season runs from early January through the end of March, culminating with a championship tournament in early April. A largely hidden treasure in the banks of the LA River has just expanded its profile, not to mention its fitness options. Gil Reyes has more from a newly opened gymnastics center in Frogtown. Gil.
Yes, Yana, what's billed as one of the largest gymnastic facilities in the country is located here in the community of Frogtown, also known as the Elysian Valley. And what a location it is. We didn't see a lot of leapfrogging in Frogtown, but we did see a lot of flipping and tumbling. To the families we spoke to, it's enough to jump for joy. The club, a gymnastics fitness center, has made the leap into Frogtown.
I'm really excited because I grew up here. I grew up in this neighborhood. I have a daughter. She goes to Doris Place Elementary. Go Tigers. and we wanted to be here to support them on their ribbon-cutting ceremony.
After 8 years in Silver Lake, the center offering gymnastics for kids and adults moves into a much larger 40,000 square foot space. Enough room to add new dance and martial arts classes, also cardio equipment and a soon-to-be-built swimming pool.
Our real estate agent said, hey, there's a space over here in Elysian Valley, and then learned about Frogtown, and then found out that this space was right on the LA River, which is also adjacent to the bike path and walking path. So with that, we also want to branch out into a bike rental program. So not only can children do gymnastics when they're here working out, but their parents have something to do also.
I tell you, put a kid of any age, 3 years old or 30 years old, on a trampoline, and you watch them go. And before you know it, they have an amazing cardio workout without even knowing they were trying to work out.
Counts former high school gymnast and Elysian Valley Councilman Mitch O'Farrell as a big supporter of the multiple fitness options now being offered. He also supports area development.
We're opening restaurants in Elysian Valley. It's a very, very special neighborhood right here at the LA River. Less than 6,000 residents, but it is a residential community. So to see these businesses move in here is a really good sign.
Some longtime residents of the Elysian Valley are against the gentrification, fearing it will spoil Frogtown's hidden charm. As a gesture of goodwill, the club is offering memberships for half price to locals only.
There's always going to be change, and if you embrace change and you get the most out of the change, it's better for everyone.
In Frogtown, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
At 40,000 square feet, the club in Frogtown is also one of the largest gyms in Southern California. Well, time to lace up your running shoes for the Ultimate Fitness Challenge, a play that's perfect for the entire family, and a Golden Dragon Parade where East meets West. All this in this week's Things to Do. Get ready, get set, go to the LA Marathon. Runners from in and outside of Los Angeles will participate in this great challenge. Kicking off at Dodger Stadium, this annual parade of physical endurance and community spirit winds its way through 26 miles of LA, culminating at Ocean Avenue in Santa Monica. Dozens of bands will perform along the route for an especially spirited experience. Show your support for these athletes, and we wish all the runners good luck. For details on volunteer opportunities and more, visit lamarathon.com.
As a mom, I thought it was really especially touching.
Don't miss Man Covets Bird, a 24th Street Theater production. This unique love story for modern families is an irresistible mix of storytelling, live music, and animation. Perfect for Valentine's Day, it's a play that will also engage kids and deeply touch adults. Opening Valentine's Day at the 24th Street Theater. For more information, visit 24thstreet.org. One of LA's oldest traditions, the 117th annual Chinese New Year Parade and Festival kicks off in downtown's Chinatown. This celebration brings multi-stage acts from kung fu demos to traditional music acts. At this parade, East meets West as old meets new with food trucks, ping pong, a craft beer garden with local breweries. Family entertainment includes kid-friendly face painting, storytelling, and paper folding. The parade starts at Hill and Ord Streets and concludes at Broadway and Cesar Chavez on Saturday, February 13th from 1 to 3 p.m. For more information, visit LAGoldenDragonParade.com. And that's a look at some things to do. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. I'm Yana Kay, and from all of us here at LA This Week, thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
I'm Shannon Lamert Park. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35, our city, our channel.
Good morning. Welcome to the Los Angeles City Council. I'm Mitchell Englander. Today is Tuesday, February 9th, and I want to welcome you to Council Chambers. We are streaming live on the internet as well as on Channel 35, and we're going to go ahead and get started. I know we've got a pretty busy agenda as well. Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Blumenfeld, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Harris, Dawson, Weezer, Carrasco, Correa, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rue, Wesson. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Great. Thank you very much. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Okay. Mr. Blumenfeld moves. Mr. Buscaino seconds.
Next is committed to resolutions for approval.
Councilmember Harris Dawson moves and Weezer seconds. Next item, please.
Mr. President, today is Tuesday, and now be the time for the flag salute.
Excellent. Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Harris Dawson, can you please do us the privilege and the honor in leading us in the flag salute? If we can ask everybody to please rise.
Place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sign this one, just this one.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. And members, if I can please direct your attention now to the agenda. And Madam Clerk, let's go ahead and run through the agenda.
Items 1 and 2 are items noticed for public hearing. The Department of Building and Safety reports that items 1C, F, G, V, A, B, and AE may be received and filed inasmuch as the liens have been paid. And items 1, W, and X may be received and filed as much as the properties are owner-occupied dwellings and exempt from lien processing. Also, the lien amount for the following amounts should be reduced as follows. Item 1D, reduced to $1,989.15 due to partially rescinded invoice. Item 1H, reduced to $3,161.67 due to partial payment. Item 1I, reduced to $839.22 due to partial payment. And item 1Z, reduced to $2,019.51 due to partial payment.
Great, excellent. Yes.
Yes,
Mr. Bonnet.
Mr. President, I'd like to continue item 1AD, after dark AD, for 2 weeks.
And that's
All right.
till February 23rd.
All right, that'll be the order without objection. Thank you very much. Any other specials on one? And I believe we have cards, I'm sure.
Yes, cards on items 1 and 2.
So we'll hold the balance of 1 and 2 and take action on the other items on 1, or should we just hold them all together? What's your preference, Madam Clerk?
Mr. President, Council should hold all items in item 1.
We'll go ahead and do that and take the next item, please.
Items 3 through 13 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and hold items 6 through 13 at this time, and we'll take item 3, 4, and 5. Yes, Mr. Weezer.
Number 5, special for a amendment, please.
Circulating now, or did you have the amendment ready?
We're circulating.
Okay, we'll go ahead and hold 5. So that leaves us 3 and 4, colleagues. Any specials on 3 and 4? No? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open the roll on 3 and 4, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Great, those are moved. Thank you very much. Next items, please.
Items 14 and 15 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes required for consideration.
We'll go ahead and open the roll for consideration on those 2 items, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
I believe we have cards on both of those items.
Yes, Mr. President.
All right, we'll go ahead and hold those on the desk as well. We have a presentation, a special presentation from Mr. Buscaino. Are you ready for your presentation?
En route.
They're still en route. Yeah, the traffic from Pedro is just ridiculous. So Harbor City, there you go. All right. We'll go ahead and hold that as well. Want to thank, we recognize a distinguished member of the audience, Miss Billy Greer is here. I wanted to give you a special shout out. How you doing? Good to see you. Always great to see you. All right, with that, colleagues, we'll go ahead and take 1 and 2 for cards. Patricia McAllister, please. And before you start coming up, folks, want to let you know that we're going to ask that you stay on subject, stay on the topic on the agenda. If you have a card on a specific matter, please stay on that matter. We're not going to continue to disrupt the meeting and warn you. If you go off topic, we'll let you know you're off topic, and you'll end up ultimately forfeiting your time if you continue to do that. So I want to remind you all to follow the rules of the council as well. Good morning.
What number are you on?
Item 1, ma'am.
Item 1. Okay. You have 35 listings here of housing.
And as I said before, we have enough people on the street. I don't know how you get home and how you drive, but if you drive by the freeways and everything, you see new tent cities coming up. People are under bridges. These people should not have liens on their homes. We are to help people keep their homes, not put them on the street. Now, if they have, excuse me, can they cut the noise down? So, if they have violations, we bring them in here and see how we can help them. We even allow them to not pay it. We send some people there to fix it. We need to be in the business of people keeping their homes, not putting them on the street. Now, you call this the government. The government, it's you, your people, I think. So we should not be doing this. I have visited people's homes and told them that your home is on the demolition list or you have liens. Most of them don't even know anything about this. These meetings here now, I've also been in meetings where developers are in there fighting for this land and these homes. They fix them up and sell them for 3 times the price that it's worth. So I know the game. Okay, I know the game. And the only way we're going to solve this problem is to get you guys out of office, you guys and girls out of office. That's how we're going to solve this and get a younger generation of people who are not involved in machine politics to run our government. This is old-fashioned stuff. It's a mafia style. And I don't like the fact that you're taking people's homes. You bring in all these illegal aliens who are taking their jobs, and then you fine people and put them out of their homes because they can't get a job. That's a lot of bull. I know these illegal aliens are living in these homes and affordable housing. They're getting aid from the government when you're throwing Americans on the street. We need to charge all of you for treason. And you're going to do your job. I have people now asking me, when am I coming back to City Hall when I'm not here?
Thank you. John Walsh. John 1 and 2, items 1 and 2. Please stand, subject.
Items 1 and 2. John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. Item number 1, building and safety. These are liens for nuisance abatement costs. In other words, problems of your unit where you live is not up to code. So here on number A, West Pico Boulevard, the lien is $4,300, which means that the landlord has to pay that. And the next one is $5,000. We have quite a number of liens here. And remember, when the LA City Council does a good job, we are the first to congratulate you on protecting the rights of tenants against the handful of terrible landlords. This, you have done an excellent job. Number 2 is tax equity, TRFA, relative to the issuance. Okay, these are revenue bonds to build low-cost housing. Now, nobody is against low-cost housing. If Jesus Christ came right down from heaven right now, the first thing he'd say is, I'm for low-cost housing. But the problem is that the money is being given for low-cost housing to private developers, and when a private developer does it for the city, the low-cost housing costs 3 to 4 times as much per unit as when the landlord or the corporation does it, because all of a sudden all your friends get jobs, everyone gets work. In other words, the whole point of the city council is to build things cheaper with the government doing it, but and having eminent domain, which Donald Trump scumbag loves. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Eric Previn on item 1. Mr. Previn, we only have one card Just letting you know on item 1, not on item 2. So you're on item 1. With that, folks, we got some other cards after we started the item. So I want to remind people that if you wish to speak on an item, the cards should be turned in before we actually begin the item, not during or after. And so I want to let folks know. I know we got 2 cards that were turned in apparently after we'd started, and on 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does that hello? Yes. It's Eric Previn from CD2. That concludes your briefing. I appreciate that. This is item number 1, the traditional daily lien item, which, as some of the previous speakers identified, is a pernicious and odious attack on ordinary residents for often old and dormant liens that have been levied against them. Some of them are fresh and clean and require some collection. But the whole idea of bringing members of the public and residents in Los Angeles on a day when both groups are fighting this homelessness piece so aggressively over at the County Board of Supervisors and right here down in the stately John Ferraro chambers, it does seem odd to be presiding over so many atrocious liens. And then the question becomes who is getting cited and who is not getting cited. And is the government code, known as the LA Municipal Code, being properly enforced? Are the requirements of buildings, including the public's buildings like City Hall, and the requirements for activity in and around those buildings being enforced properly? Obviously, we've heard with the Willits case that we've had egregious violations of obviously the ADA piece, which we've been paying handsomely thanks to this body's willingness to put forward money into the legal machine that will then
he does
eventually
not appear to be talking about these liens.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
O'Connell.
so you're not on topic?
No, I'm on topic.
Warning.
I'm on lien number. I'll give you the number, sir.
Yeah, the Willits case is not on this subject.
Well, but it's okay. I'm not going to debate you because I will follow the rule. Okay, the rule is that we're talking about citations of individuals, and I will be bringing forward some citation suggestions of my very own. Obviously, in this very environment, we have been leaning homes. I think that we've got, how many on the agenda today, Dion? Would you say it's about 25 or a little more? Okay. The point is that we need to do a little better, gentlemen and Ms. Martinez. This is a time for digging deep and reconsidering how this meeting functions so that the public who are down here to inform you of how things are going and provide guidance as to what we want you to do, it's time. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. We do have a card from Bob, looks like Milkak, is the manager. I want to let you know, Bob, you're on item 1D, and that is continued for 2 weeks. Did you still wish to speak? Is he still here? Okay, I don't see him. So maybe you got word that your item is continued for 2 weeks, so we'll go ahead and note and file that.
And Mr. President, there's a request to also continue item 1A and 1AG to February 23rd.
Okay, very well. Are there any items left then under 1?
Yes.
Okay. So which particular items are still left under 1 then? Okay, then that's fine. We'll go ahead. Dan, I know you turned the 2 cards in after we started the item, but I'll go ahead and take you anyway if you want to still speak. Just want to remind you to please stick to the items. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Englander. I appreciate the leeway. In fact, in honor of that, I'm going to give my 2 minutes back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gus. All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and all right. We have no other cards on item 1. So the remaining balance of those items, with those being before us, colleagues will go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Great. Thank you very much. Now I want to turn our attention to the center ring, where we've got no other than Councilmember Joe Buscaino, who's going to lead us in a special presentation. The floor is yours.
Coach, come on up. Mr. President, thank you. Colleagues, I'm pleased to welcome and present to you 2015 state champions, the proud Narbonne High School Gaucho football team. Give them a round of applause. These are our fine scholar athletes, before you today. This past Sunday, close to 112 million viewers gathered for what seems to be a national holiday, Super Bowl 50. Whether you're cheering on the Panthers or the Broncos, we all have one thing in common, that's the love for football. Since the mid-19th century, football has evolved into America's favorite sport. And the young men with me today have an undeniable love for the game of football. Some have been playing since childhood, and I'm sure they vividly remember the time they threw their first pass. Others here learned the game in school, proudly wearing their school jersey to a Friday night game. Football has brought them together. Football has taught them loyalty, collective effort, and true leadership. I'm confident that all the young men here will graduate high school and some will go on to play at the collegiate level. And I wouldn't be surprised if they made it to the NFL and perhaps even play for the LA Rams someday. Whatever path that they all choose, it will definitely be a successful one. And these young men have achieved more in their high school football career than, of course, many in their peers across the country. And after years of training and playing together, the Narbonne Gauchos played their best season to date. On December 19th, the Narbonne Gauchos set the standard, scoring the school's first CIF state title with a 28-14 victory over Clayton Valley Charter of Concord to win the CIF State Division 1A Bowl at Sacramento State University. What an incredible win. And a few highlights. I want to highlight some of the players, colleagues. Sean Riley rushed for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Roman Ali threw for 117 yards and ran a score for Narbonne, which finished 14-2 and became the first LA Unified School District school to win a state title in the 90-year history of the CIF. The win arguably trumps the accomplishments of Narbonne's previous success, but it should be noted that they were the CIF LA City champs in 2001, 2002, 2008, 11, 12, 14, and now 2015. They were also CIF LA City finalists in 2009 and 13. The Gauchos would not be where they're at today without their dedicated leader. That's head coach Manuel Douglas. Coach, yes, amazing individual here before you who has led these young men. Coach Douglas is known for his uncompromising coaching style, making sure he's constantly adhering to the same principles when it comes to disciplining the players. He understands the importance of having a focused, compatible team. Coach Douglas is also their biggest fan and greatest supporter. He has won back-to-back city titles since twice in his 11-year career at Narbonne. He just gave me an update that next year could be the first back-to-back-to-back city championship as well. He's put together quite a coaching team, focusing on strengthening a team through individual progress. And we commend Coach Douglas and the rest of his staff for reaching a career high this season and thanking them for their dedication to these young men. And at this time, I want to recognize them individually. Of course, head coach Manuel Douglas, defensive coordinator Theron Bowie, offensive coordinator Brandon Manumaleuna, Tim Cobb, Robert Gill, Alfred Ramirez, James Finley, Ralph Caldwell, Doug Figueroa, Ramon Young, Eddie David, Matty Del Pozo, James Choi, Japuni Smith Freeman, and athletic director here today, Kyla Berman. And it truly does take a village to raise a child, and especially one who wins a state championship. Congratulations, Gauchos. We have a few proud alum in the city family. Deputy Mayor Kelly Bernard attended Narbonne High School, as did our Assistant Chief Earl Pasinger with the LAPD. I want to actually, Chief, come up and say a few words. He's a proud Gaucho, and then I'll turn it over to the coach.
Thank you, Councilman Busquiano, Mr. President, members of the council. Very pleased to be here today to join the council members in this body for recognizing the green and the gold Narbonne Gauchos. I have to admit, when I graduated, we weren't quite as good as you are today, but that was then and this is now. Like the council member mentioned, it's not just football that they play, but also they play in this game of life, and they have distinguished themselves on the football field. They have distinguished themselves academically, and they have distinguished themselves as young, promising men in this city. I'm very, very pleased to add my voice again on behalf of Chief Charlie Beck and the LAPD in congratulating them for an enormous and extraordinary accomplishment. My only regret is that I can't play on the same field as them, but I can help them really applaud their great accomplishment. Congratulations to them, Coach.
All right,
Thank you, Chief.
Chief, you were Chief Basinger. You were alumni class of what?
The proud class of 1973. You weren't born yet.
Hey, now I was 3.
That was -1. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate your presence. So to our young men, just know that we're all rooting for you. We love you. Your family, friends, students, and your alumni, all collectively are so proud of you. And your fan base here is citywide, and we are so proud to call you our champions. And help me welcome Coach Douglas to share a few words, and he'll introduce one of the team captains, Lawson Hall, to say a few words. Coach Douglas.
Thank you for having us here. I'd like to thank the council and obviously Councilman Buscaino for bringing us down here. I think this is our 4th opportunity to be here. We've been here a few times, and it's always a great treat for the kids and us as a staff, coaching staff, and we really enjoy it, and we feel it's a privilege. One thing I would like to, distinction I'd like to make is, yes, it was the first state championship for LAUSD school in the 9-year format, that the way it is now. But we're the first Los Angeles Unified School District team or school to win a state championship in 99 years. So it's almost 100 years that has been done, and hopefully we'll go back and do it again next year. That is our expectation, but it is nice to be first at anything. So obviously we had a great year. We were back-to-back city champions. We beat Crenshaw High School for a city championship. Yeah, it was a good game, 57-21, but we had a very dynamic team. We scored a lot of points. We were 14-2 and had a lot of success on the field. But just as important, I'd like to make the point as well that last Wednesday was National Signing Day, National Letter of Intent for the opportunity for young men who have been offered scholarships. A good year for a solid program would be 3 to 5 young men who had the opportunity or have been offered athletic scholarships to play football free on the next level. At Narbonne High School, we broke a school record, and we're one of the top in the state. We had 11 young men sign athletic scholarships from different levels, Sacramento State to UCLA, Arizona, Syracuse, Hawaii, Nevada, Colorado State. All those universities offered our young men the opportunity to play football for free and get an education. So not everyone has that opportunity, but my thing is we always push our young men to be academically in position to accept one of those scholarships. Whether they go to the NFL or not, or whether they play a down in college is irrelevant. The fact that they are able to go to college and get a degree in education, something I personally wasn't able to do for free, because I'm still paying my student loans, is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And we're very proud of that. And in all honesty, each one of those young men, it's like winning a game in itself when those young men have the opportunity to accept that. So that makes us a well-rounded overall program. I really, again, I'm very proud to be here, proud to be the head coach of this team. We've had a tremendous amount of success. We've been very fortunate and blessed. But it wouldn't happen if we didn't have good players, good staff, and good support from our community. Our principal, Mr. Cabada, who unfortunately could not be here today and apologized. He had a principal's meeting, and that's what's more important. So with that, I want to close by introducing one of our captains and a true leader on our team, and definitely a young man I'm very proud represents our team, and one of the captains headed to the University of Nevada on a full athletic scholarship, Lawson Hall.
Good job, man.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lawson Hall. I play linebacker at Narbonne, and it's always an honor being here. You know, it's good to know to have the whole city on our back and supporting us. And this is my second time being here. The last time I've been here was in, I think, 2013, and I was a freshman actually. Right, 2012. Yeah, 2012. I came with. I was a freshman. We just won the city section championship against Crenshaw, but we came short against Corona Centennial in the state regional. So it's a good thing being back here after we just beat Clayton Valley in the state championship. So it's an honor being here, and we appreciate the invite, and we hope to be here next year again.
Tell us about your team. What made up your team? Tell about your team.
Well, we were so successful because everybody was working on the same page, and we were all one unit. We're all brothers. There were no individuals, really. We played as a team all the time, and we stuck with that. And, of course, we had great coaching at every position on the ball. So it was just a great year for us, and we came through.
Good job, Lawson. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Thank you.
We do have Councilmember Cedillo on the queue.
Yes, sir.
Joe, congratulations. And Coach, let me congratulate you because you took some young boys and you're making them into young men. You're making them into the future leaders of this city, as my colleague indicated. You do more than simply teach these young men how to play football, but you teach them how to be team members, how to set goals, how to work hard, how to execute. You teach them how to win, and you teach them how to lose with a sense of dignity. And so you are really preparing these young men to make a big contribution to our city. You're doing it at a time that we really need it. And so I want to congratulate you and your entire team of coaches. I stand here before you towards the end of a long career in politics and in leadership, but I constantly remember Coach Al Chavez at Roosevelt High School in 1970, Coach Richard Soto, Richard Angel, and King Conference Pop Warner football, because those were the first leaders that I met, and they taught me the very same things that I just mentioned. Teamwork, how to win, how to lose, how to set goals, how to execute those goals, and how to be a better human being and a leader. And so I know that's what you're doing for these young men and their families, and we all thank you, and we're very proud of you for the leadership that you've displayed, and congratulations on a champion season and a championship life.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Cedillo. Another proud elected in this city is our school board member, Dr. Vladovic, who represents Narbonne High School on the LA Unified School Board. He is represented here today by Mr. John Larson and the representatives from Office of State Senator Isidore Hall, Erica Velasquez, as well as Eric Matos, who's representing a local state assembly member, David Hadley's office. So thank you very much on behalf of the entire City Council, Mayor Eric Garcetti, to Coach Douglas, on behalf of all of us here. We're proud and honored to have you represent our great city with exceptional leadership, gaucho pride, and impeccable respect for the game. Congratulations. We love you. And all the scholar athletes will have get their own individual resolution as well.
Joe, can we get all of them to stand up and be recognized, those who are here, so we can see
stand up.
Our hero athletes
Our
in the
state
room.
champions,
Let's give them a big
2015
round of
Narbonne
applause.
High School. Here you go, sir. Sherry. Then we'll all plan on meeting the mayor on the south steps, on the south lawn of the City Hall. All right. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you again. All right, we're going to go ahead and turn our attention back to the council agenda. We actually had a card in on item 1 that, let me apologize in advance, was apparently misfiled. But it was for Alan Durowitz, and I wanted to let Alan know that we have actually continued your item 1N for 2 weeks. So 2 weeks brings us to February 23rd. But Alan, if you still wish to speak, you can. And Alan, if you want, they can meet you on the side of the ropes and walk you through, since we can't have a dialogue, they can walk you through what needs to be done within the next 2 weeks in terms of communication. And then you can come back here as well. Did you still wish to speak? Okay.
First, I'd just like to say good morning. If I could, I'd like to direct your attention to this photograph. It's a picture of my garage with an open door and my truck and motorcycle parked inside of it. So you can imagine my surprise when I got a letter saying that I was being cited for illegally converting my garage to storage space and not having the required off-street parking. As you can see again from the photograph, that's not the case. I have a stack of letters here that I've written. I've called the number on the back of the letter that was sent to us for appeal. They asked us to send a photograph in, which we did. I have not received a single response from anyone. This citation materialized out of thin air. It came from nowhere. I've done nothing to my garage, and once again, as you can see, I have a garage. It's not storage space, it's a garage. So that's my dilemma at this point. It's gotten to the point now where you guys want to put a lien on my property for well over $3,000 for not having a garage, which I've always had and never haven't had. No one's ever provided me with any evidence or any actual reason why I've been cited for this. I've not met with any inspector. I don't know the inspector that from the Code Enforcement Division that came up with this this idea, but I'm here to ask for your help. I have a garage. I don't think I should pay over $3,000 in fines for this.
Okay, thank you very much. And they could speak to you on the side of the ropes if you'd like as well. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mr. Kretz.
Yeah, this is the first that's come to our office's attention, so if we could ask for a 2-week delay in this, and we'll resolve this.
Okay. Yeah, very well.
And if you could speak to my staff person at the ropes, we'll figure this out.
Yeah, Councilman Kretz, that was the action we took. We actually did a 2-week extension already, so we'll have the opportunity to do that. Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and jump to our attention on item 15. And in light of the fact that we do also have a pretty heavy agenda on 6 through 13, and we have a number of cards on 15, I'd like to go ahead and get through these with a minute each. Danny? Danny now instead of Daniel? Okay, or Dan? Just says Danny. Okay.
In honor of the good way Mr. Englander treated me today, I'm going to give you your time back. Thank you, Mr. Englander.
Thank you, Danny. You got it. Thank you very much. Mr. Walsh. Oops.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. For the record, I've only spoken 3 minutes on...
Stay on the item, please.
Came up. This is item 15. And item 15, removing properties from the rent escrow account. Again, this is a good idea. We're 100% in favor of it. As long as the landlords, and we have a distinguished landlord here, Bill Huey, does a great job for small landlords, and we're 100% in favor of the power of small landlords to do a good job with their tenants. That's minute 4, HollywoodHighlands.org.
Okay. Orifile, if I'm reading that right? Ortiz, I believe? Apologize, just trying to read the writing. Orifil? Ortiz? Not here? Okay. Victor Ortiz? Victor? Okay. Desi Mendez? Marcos de la Cruz? All right, Elizabeth Parachi? Nicholson, and are these folks still here? Because your time is, I'm calling your cards. If you wish to speak, now's your time. No, none of those members are here. Okay. Nicholas Duanes? Mr. Duanes? No longer here. Eugenio Zith? Please state your name for the record.
My name is Orifiel Ortiz. I apologize for the tardiness. I'm here to speak against the closure of REAP case 477926. There are still a multitude of issues that are still unresolved in the building. The landlord would claim that they are complete, but the repairs are done half-assed, pardon my expression. And we are without an elevator. There's a giant pest infestation that's still running rampant. Pretty much he intimidates a lot of the tenants when we ever try to speak out. There are gas issues, there are electrical issues. There are so many issues in that building that, in my opinion, it should be condemned. But, you know, we need a place to live. So please do not close this building. We have evidence to present to you today if you would accept it. And it's just an outrage. A lot of the people are, you know, primarily immigrants. They do not know the law. And that's really where the problem is and where the intimidation tactics come from. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I've called your name, it's the time for you to come up. We have a translator available if anybody needs translation.
Yeah, a lot of the tenants are going to need translation.
Okay, give us a moment.
Mi nombre es Víctor Ortiz.
Un momento. Por favor, gracias.
Sí. Caso 15. 15. Mi nombre es Víctor Ortiz.
My name is Victor Ortiz.
El problema que tenemos en el edificio 729
The problem that we have in the building 729
de Sur Bonnie Bryan es de que no tenemos seguridad.
South Bonnie Bride is that we don't have any kind of security or safety.
Gente que no vive en el edificio llega a beber y a drogarse ahí.
People that do not live in the building, they go there, they drug themselves, they drink there.
Se apropian de los pasillos y nos prohíben pasar.
They took over the hallways and they did not allow us to walk by.
Y aparte de eso traemos evidencias de los problemas que tenemos de chinches y cucarachas.
Besides that, we have we bring here evidence of the chinches.
Chinches.
Sorry, I black out. Lies. We have evidence of the lies that we see there.
Y demasiados problemas que no se han solucionado ahí.
We have a lot of problems that has not been resolved yet.
Traemos todas las evidencias.
We have all the evidence here. I don't.
Buenos días.
Good morning.
Buenos días a todos los señores presentes y señoritas y a todo el público.
Good morning to all the ladies and gentlemen in the public and all the public present. My name is
Eugenio Citán.
Eugenio Citán.
Soy un inquilino del 729.
I am a renter at 729.
729 Sur Bonnie Brea Street.
South Bonnie Brea Street in Los Angeles.
California. Estamos aquí con una razón. Venimos a decirle a nuestro concejal que oigan nuestro caso porque
we're here because we want to talk to our city council to tell them to please listen to our case because
tenemos entendido de que hoy venimos por la razón, porque tenemos entendido de que quieren cerrar el caso.
We come here for the reason because you want to close the case today.
Venimos por un motivo porque hay mucho trabajo todavía en el edificio 729, empezando con el elevador. Yo soy un
We
padre.
come here because there is a lot of work that has to be done. I am a parent, and there is a lot of work that has to be finished in that building.
Soy un padre de 3 niños, tengo mis niños recién nacidos.
I am a parent. I have 3 children. I have one that just newly born.
Y vivo en el piso 4.
And I live in the 4th floor.
Y el motivo es de que uno de mi queja yo personal y a todo el público, los que viven ahí, es del elevador, que constantemente falla el elevador.
And one of the complaints that I have is that there is an elevator and the elevator never works, and there is always a failure.
Y la carpeta del pasillo, también traemos evidencia de que la carpeta está totalmente...
And the carpet in the hallway is not working. We also have evidence of that.
Seguridad, necesitamos seguridad.
Safety, and we need safety.
We need to limit the time. It's 1 minute.
No sé si...
Gracias.
Gracias.
No sé, señora, pase, creo. Okay.
Buenos días.
Good morning.
Good morning. Gracias por escucharnos.
Thank you for listening to us.
Sí, pues todos somos de las mismas personas, del mismo edificio.
We are all coming from the same building.
Y pues solo les queremos pedir que por favor nos ayuden a que el dueño nos haga favor de arreglarnos bien este edificio.
And we just want to ask everyone, we want the owner to help us fix this building.
De cucarachas.
There are roaches.
Ratones.
Mice. Lices.
Ay, yo me rompí mi dedo de tanto animal.
I broke my finger because there are too many animals there.
La seguridad, que hay asaltos al mismo adentro del edificio.
Safety, because there are some assaults inside the building.
Entonces, solamente les venimos a pedir que por favor nos ayuden.
So we are just coming here to ask you to please help us.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Ok, mi nombre es Marco Santos y vivo
My name is Marco Santos.
Vivo en el apartamento número 404.
And I live in apartment 404.
Ya. El problema que estamos aquí porque cuando pasa la inspección, simplemente el manager y el dueño tocan la puerta
The
y
problem is that when
no
there is
entran
inspection, the manager
a
and the owner
supervisar
knocks
adentro
on
de
the
los
door.
apartamentos. Simplemente ellos dicen que todo está muy bien y no, mentira, no entran adentro del apartamento.
The manager and the inspector they just knock on the door, and that is
El
not
piso
true
de mi
because they come
apartamento
into.
está todo roto.
The manager of the building, the inspector only comes and knock on the door, and they don't. It's not true. They just go inside the apartment floor. Inside my apartment is all broken.
Ya, y tengo demasiadas chinches también ahí.
There are a lot of lices in there.
Cucarachas y ratas.
Roaches and rats. That's all I want to say.
Buenos días.
Good morning.
¿Cómo se llama? Yo quiero presentar el 729 de la Bonibrea.
I want to talk about the apartment on the 729 Bonnie Bray.
Dijo el dueño que ya está, pero no. En el 104 siempre llegan los inspectores, pero no, solo nada más toca la puerta.
The owner says that it's already fixed, but it's not. I am at apartment 104, and there are lice in there.
Chinches, cucarachas,
roaches.
Ahí todavía tiene mucho trabajo.
There is a lot of work that has to be done.
Por favor, que nos ayude a arreglar.
Please help us fix this.
Porque mucho chinche, mucho trabajo. Dijo que ella.
There is a lot of lies. There is a lot of work still that has to be done. They said it was fixed, but it's not. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Buenos días.
Good morning.
Mi nombre es Norbia.
My name is Nurbia.
Yo vivo también en el edificio 720 de la Bonibrea.
I also live in the apartment on the building 720 Bonnie Bray.
Yo soy nueva de vivir en el edificio, pero estoy aquí apoyando a nuestros compañeros.
I'm a new tenant, but I'm here to support my friends.
Como decía mi compañero anterior que pasó, que van a cerrar el caso, pero creo que sería justo hasta que ya estuviera todo arreglado.
Like my friend, the one that spoke before, they say that they're about to close this case, but it's not fair because it's not fixed yet.
Porque yo soy vendedora, yo vendo en la calle y luego batallo mucho con el elevador. Como
Because
decía el
I
compañero.
sell in the street, but I have a lot of problems selling using the elevator, like my friend has said.
Por eso más estoy aquí apoyando a nuestros compañeros, porque si van a cerrar el caso, que sea justo, pues, hasta que ya esté todo arreglado. que no
That's why I'm
tengamos ningún
here.
problema.
That's what I'm here helping all my friends, because if they're going to be closing the case, make sure that it's closed and it's fair and it's done completely.
Gracias.
Thank
Buenos
you.
días.
Have a good day. Yeah.
Ay, buenos días.
Good morning.
Yo estoy aquí en este lugar.
I am here today.
Vengo del edificio de 729 Sur Bonnie Brea.
I'm coming here for the building 729 Bonnie Brea.
Yo tengo 2 niños y vivo solo.
I have 2 children and I live by myself.
Mucha gente entra en el edificio arriba, somatan. Yo vivo en el 5º piso.
There are a lot of people that come into the building and they kill. You know, I live in the 5th floor.
A veces no dejan dormir a mis hijos porque están somatando las puertas, las paredes.
Sometimes they don't allow my kids to sleep because they're killing, my children because they're kicking the doors and the walls.
También sobre el elevador, yo voy a comprar mis cosas y no sirve el elevador, se quedan trabados.
And also about the elevator, I go and buy my stuff and the elevators don't work. There's a failure in the elevator. They don't work.
Solamente.
That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, ¿es usted?
Good morning.
Buenos días.
Buenos
Good morning.
La razón que vengo ahorita es que dijeron que el caso del edificio ya se va a cerrar, pero
The reason why I'm here is because they said that the case about this building it's about to be closed.
lo que pasa es que hay muchas cosas todavía, falta muchos borrachos que entran ahí, que no viven ahí.
The problem is that there are a lot of things that need to be fixed. There are a lot of drunk people that go into the building and they do not live there.
Por eso es la razón que venimos ahorita. No es justo que van a subir la renta y que no falta mucho trabajo todavía.
And it is not fair because they're about to raise the rent and there is a lot of work that still needs to be done.
El elevador lo arreglan, pero se va a arruinar otra vez. Lo van a arreglar, pero se arruina otra vez.
The elevator works and then they fix it and then again breaks down.
Y cuesta bajar porque yo vivo en el 4º piso con mis niños, 2 niños tengo.
And it's very hard to, make it downstairs because I live in the 4th floor and I have 2 children.
Solamente eso vengo para.
That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Gracias.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Carmen Estrada y vengo
Good morning, my name is Carmen Estrada.
Acompañando a los compañeros que vivimos en el edificio 729.
And I come here to help my friends that live in the building 729.
El motivo por la cual estamos presentes es porque el caso supuestamente se va a cerrar.
The reason why we're here is because supposedly the case is about to close.
Les agradecemos mucho porque nos escuchan y esperamos que nuestra voz cuente.
We are very thankful that you listen to us, and I hope that our voice could be heard.
La verdad, hay mucho trabajo todavía que terminar en el edificio.
The truth is that there is a lot of work still that has to be done in the building.
Hay ratones, tenemos también cucarachas que
roaches.
Por el momento, por el motivo del clima, ahorita también se están muriendo porque ahorita es el tiempo de frío, las cucarachas se mueren.
There is a lot of roaches, and because of the weather, the roaches are dying right now. But as soon as the weather changes,
pero luego cuando viene el tiempo del calor, las cucarachas se propagan más.
And as soon as the weather changes and the heat comes back, the roaches are going to be duplicated and grow.
Necesitamos que nos cambien, que pongan una carpeta nueva y también que pongan atención en el elevador.
We need a change. We need a change of carpet, and we also need the elevators to be fixed.
Solamente.
That's it.
Hi. Halfway here. Hi, thank you guys for being so receptive. I'm talking on behalf of tenants, property owners, and, you know, the people in the city of Los Angeles. The Bonnie Brae situation is a little bit harder and harder to take, especially when they're taking 50% of the money from the property, which does jeopardize housing, which I'll talk about a little bit later. My specialist is renovation, restoration, and going into areas and behind the scenes and making it work. I'm also a civil rights advocate. At the same point in time, I know that there's a curtain that's drawn behind the city council and what is real and what is false. So I want you guys to consider that you did have a city inspector go out there, that you did and you do still have a limited amount of problems out there. The lady said that there was no pests, but yet and still the whole idea is that they're paying 50% of rent, so it may be tilted.
Yes. Subsidized housing.
Yes, sir. Do you have a card already filled out?
Yes, I'm the owner of the property that these people are complaining
Okay,
about.
please.
Defend yourself. Come here.
State your name for the record.
My name is Rahman Akaban. I'm the owner of 729 South Bonnie Brae Street. Philo, come here, please. This is the manager of the property is next to me. I really appreciate the time the City Council is giving me to speak. What I'm hearing from these tenants, and first of all, let me say something. It's like a travesty what I'm hearing, what the truth is and what they're saying. A few of these tenants that are here, they're making a pretty good money. They're subleasing the unit, taking full rent from the other people that are in the unit and paying half rent. They're making good business. This is what the city is allowing them to do. The other people that are not paying the rent, they are drinking and abusing drugs. You're destroying these people's life. Now, let me show you what we have done to this property. In the last month, we've had 4 different inspections. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional.
Sir, it's only a minute of your time. Did your manager wish to speak as well?
No, he doesn't speak English. He's just holding the stuff so I can verify stuff with him.
Okay, so we're out of time. So I just want to let you know.
Okay, can I just...
I'd have to give everybody else and bring them all back for the same equal time, so it's equal time for each.
I didn't know it was a time, so at least I just wanted to show everything that they're saying.
Sure.
We have proof that is not true.
I appreciate that. And you can submit whatever you want for the file, if you'd like. And you can see the sergeants at the side of the ropes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we have no other speaker cards. No one on the queue. We'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Great. Thank you very much. We also have a request from 1P. So we're going to go ahead and to reconsider item 1P so we can continue it for 2 weeks. So we'll go ahead and open the roll on 1P for reconsideration, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right, we'll go ahead and continue at 1P for 2 weeks until February 23rd. Great, thank you very much. Now we're going to turn our attention over to items 8 through 13. So we'll go ahead and turn our attention to items 8 through 13. Those are items for which public hearing has been held. So we've already satisfied public comment on those items. So I'll turn the floor over to Councilmember Cedillo. We'll try it again. We'll turn the floor over to Councilmember Cedillo.
Members, thank you. Members, House LA is a initiative, a bricks and mortar initiative to help address the incredible challenges that confront this city, this state, and this nation with respect to homelessness. The fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, we simply need more housing. It is those pressures, the lack of housing stock, that raises the prices of the current availability of housing. And until we increase housing for all sectors of our society at every level, market rate for new college graduates, for nurses and doctors, for firefighters and police officers, for working men and women, affordable housing for those who work in the sectors of the economy that don't quite pay what's necessary, low-income housing, and housing with wraparound services for the homeless. Until we build housing at every level of every nature, we will not put an end to the homelessness that challenges this city. Every night, 40,000 people are out on the streets. Nobody has to tell us. We hear it repeatedly. There's an increase in housing. And I know personally and intimately, many of the people who are without housing are on the margins, and that affordable housing would be a solution to their challenge. And so we simply have to do all that we can to make sure that we have enough housing in this city. This is not the immediate solution. This is not the mental health solution. This is not the problems of substance abuse solution. This is not the shelter solution. This is the long-term bricks and mortar, changing the face of this city solution that's going to require these changes that we're proposing. These changes come as a result of a discussion that's been going on since I first got here. It's taken place over a couple of years. The development of a white paper, a conference last August, and the results of that conference is this initiative that's called House LA. There's half a dozen proposals that are a product of that. I want to thank the CAO and the CLA for their review of this. I want to thank the CAO for considering the entire package as part of his proposal and analysis. And I want to thank my colleagues for their review and consideration of these proposals. We must do all that we can immediately and all that we can with planning for the future to address this issue. And House LA initiative is part of that solution. It is the bricks and mortar. It will change the face of this city. It'll set an example for the rest of the nation. We must and we can do more, and now is the time to do that. Let me make some specifics with respect to each one, and then let me make sure that I say something that's very important, because, you know, we need 100,000 units of housing, and as I indicated, at all levels, but I want to make sure that we consolidate all of these matters and all these files into one, and that's for the purpose of efficiency. There's a complexity to these issues, but we simply need to bring them all into one because they all work together, and then we can move forward with sub-files for those various committees who find it necessary to review and drill a little deeper on these initiatives. These proposals aren't new, but now is the time for us to look at them. Let me go through each and every single one, Mr. Chair, for a brief second. Item number 8 is relative to the preservation and development of unapproved second detached houses. The fact of the matter is we have throughout the city these granny flats, these secondary dwelling units. We've read in the newspapers stories where people have converted these units. They exist, and it's time for us to acknowledge that reality, bring them online, add them to our stock, make them up to code, and recognize that that is part of our new reality. Item number 9 deals with permitting vehicle sharing and reducing parking requirements, which is a huge burden in our ability to build housing for residential and mixed-use buildings that are located near transit centers and corridors like my district office. Item number 10 is relative to encouraging the construction of micro units. The fact of the matter is, here in California and Los Angeles, this city has grown up with a richness of space. But that's not the reality for the rest of the world, and the fact of the matter is, people throughout the world live in much smaller units and then share public space. And so we need to recognize that, and we need to permit that. We should not be prohibiting people from living in smaller micro units. Item number 11 is relative to site plan review ordinance to increase the production of affordable housing in the city of Los Angeles. Hardly anything is more important than this item. Item number 12 is relative to the feasibility of expanding the Department of City Planning's expedited process section to include the review of projects with new environmental impact reports, the EIRs. We simply have to place our resources where they're needed so that we can move this process along. It takes too long, costs too much, it takes too long to build a simple unit of housing in the city, and we need to move beyond that. Finally, item 13 is relative to strategies for using city-owned land as sites for affordable housing developments. We have over 7,500 properties. That is the city of Los Angeles. We have over 7,500 properties for which we should be evaluating their value. We should be evaluating how we can leverage them. And we should be evaluating whether or not these are appropriate properties for which we then can build affordable housing to address the concerns. That is the only way we will put an end to the tent cities, to people sleeping on the streets, to the people roaming in the city, only when we take advantage of our resources, working with the private sector and building the housing that's necessary for each and every resident of this great city. With that, colleagues, I thank you, and I ask for an aye vote. Thank you very much.
We're going to go ahead and go over to Councilmember Huizar.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a good package for us to move forward to continue working on addressing the needs for affordable housing in the city and address homelessness. On some of these items, we waived out of plumb so that we could, at the request of the makers of the motion, so that we could hear them today in council. But some of these items also required additional input from our planning department so that at least we could see all the options before us before we move forward with any particular direction. On item number 9, for example, Mr. Cedillo is correct that parking has been an impediment, or our strict guidelines on how we implement our ordinances with respect to parking prohibits us from building necessary housing. However, there's just one option here, and I would request that instead of asking the city attorney to draft the ordinance, that we have the planning department give us advice on different options available to us. So if it could be a friendly amendment, or we could ask that we strike language asking for the preparation of an ordinance and instead request them to work with the planning department to report back on the options presented before us on item number 9, if that's okay.
Scheduled, definite and certain, is that correct? March 1st?
Yes. Yep. But item number 9, if we could do that as a friendly amendment, strike language asking for preparation of an ordinance and instead request the planning department to report back on options with respect to item 1 on motion number 9.
Okay, on motion number 9, then the motion was made and seconded as a friendly amendment.
Okay, and on items number 10, 11 and 12, we have a date certain for Plum to again hear from our planning department on this as a report back so that we could we wanted to make sure that we move these as quickly as possible, waived out of Plum, but also we have some input from the planning department that they might want to give with respect to item 12 so that we could have those heard in committee or in a date certain early March, if that's okay with that we're sending them to Plum, to the Plum committee, item 11 and 12.
Yeah, that's March 1st also, right?
Okay, yeah.
All right, so those two amendments were made on 11 and 12 as well, 9, 10, 11, 12, or 9, 11, and 12, and those were seconded by Mr. Cedillo. And so
thank you.
That'll be the action when we actually vote, unless there are other amendments that come in. Mr. Rue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just really want to thank the leadership, Councilman Cedillo, on this very important matter. We do have a shortage of housing in the city of Los Angeles, especially when it comes to affordable housing. And you know, this is one of the areas, especially also intersects with homelessness, and this is one of the areas where we have complete control over and that we could work on. And many of these are report backs, and I look forward to the discussion on these very important matters. And actually, Councilman Huizar, I fully agree with what he said. I did have I did want to introduce a friendly amendment on item 9, but I think Councilmember Huizar's amendment supersedes what I was trying to ask. But I am fully in support of especially 1B, permanent supportive housing. But with 1A, I think it would be great to have more input from Plum as well as CLA and everyone else. So, but thank you, Councilman Cedillo, for your leadership on this.
Thank you. Councilmember Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. Cedillo, I want to rise to thank you. I think you and I have had I don't know if it's a gentleman's agreement or a good working relationship over the past few months as we've discussed homelessness in Los Angeles, where you have focused on the long-term solution, and I've tried to make sure our conversation also focused on the immediate solutions. And I want to thank you for doing that and for bringing forth these proposals. I am particularly eager to see the strategy for using city-owned properties.
Yes.
I hope you don't mind. I'm not going to wait. I'm going to start moving on them immediately. In fact, we just secured a Metro-owned property in my district that will be used for a good deal of affordable housing over the next few years. And I intend over the next few weeks and months to identify a number of city-owned properties in my district that can be used for a number of things, including permanent supportive housing. One of the things that I think is really brilliant about the county strategy that we'll be discussing in a few minutes is that it acknowledged where the county has dropped the ball. It acknowledged that we create homelessness because of people coming out of jails and foster care and hospitals. And I think one of the things that's so strong about our plan, which is mirrored in your 7 proposals here today, is that we've dropped the ball by not providing sufficient housing, affordable and market rate and workforce. And so I look forward to working with you on these, particularly the ones about using our city-owned properties. Because of the price of real estate in my district, I don't think I will ever see another unit of affordable housing built unless we put city property on the table. It's absolutely essential, so thank you for your leadership.
Councilwoman Martinez.
Mr. President, I just want to remind Mr. Cedillo I've circulated a friendly amendment on 13. It's being circulated now, and you signed it. Okay, thanks.
All right, seeing no other speakers on the queue, Mr. Cedillo.
Yes, so just let me thank my colleague, Mr. Bonin. We have split this incredible challenge, and I appreciate all your work on the at the front end of this. And you know, it's amazing. We have, as I said, over 7,500 properties to evaluate and to put in a position for us to determine, each of us individual council members, what is the appropriate use for that property. Add that to the properties owned by LAUSD, add that to the properties owned by the Community College District, and then Metro, and then the County of Los Angeles. Well, this city is you know, essentially landlocked and difficult to find. In government, there's an abundance of properties that should be made available for us to leverage. Mr. Bonin is spot on. It is so expensive to have property in this region. Yet, when you do, you should be able to then leverage that with developers to create the type of housing at every level that we need. And so I look forward to working with you, Mr. Bonin, on that. I think you're setting forth some great pilots for us to look at and to emulate and to model as we move forward in this process. This will not be done overnight. This is the difficult mining work that's necessary for us to move forward, but it must be done, and we must start now. So I thank you. Ms. Martinez, I was happy to embrace your friendly amendments, and so we are prepared to move forward. Mr. Chair.
Great, excellent. Thank you all. So we're going to go ahead and look at then items 8 through 13 and vote on those. In fact, actually, 11 and 12 will just be referred to Plum without objection. That'll be the order. So we'll go ahead and adopt item 8, adopt as amended, item 9, adopt 10, and 13 is amended as well. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. President, but item 13, the amendment has not been circulated yet.
Oh.
But council at this time may vote on item 9 as amended and items 8 and 10 if you like.
Okay, let's go ahead and hold 13 until that's circulated, and we'll move items 8, 9, and 10. 11 and 12 were already referred. So
can we vote on item 9 separately since it's as amended?
As amended, absolutely. So we'll go ahead and open the roll then on item 8 and 10. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right, 9 as adopted or as amended.
Oh, I'm on the board. Oh, wait.
So we'll go ahead and. Oh,
Thank you.
let's put Joe back on the board. He's very much here. All right. So on item 9 as amended, we'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
All right. Has 13 been circulated?
Yes, Mr. President.
All right. We'll go ahead and open the roll as amended. Close the roll. And tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
8 through 13 are approved and moved.
This is like amazing grace.
All right. Thank you very much. Now we're going to go ahead and go into items 6, 7, and 14. But yes, we've got a special introduction. A song and a dance by Joe Buscaino.
No, it's a busy day in council. We have a great honor to welcome these chambers the mayor of Dubrovnik in Croatia, Mayor Andrew Vlahusic. Give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you with open arms, Mr. Mayor. He has brought to us, we're so blessed with the rich history of the Croatian culture in Los Angeles, specifically in San Pedro, the largest Croatian community in the entire greater Los Angeles area, if not all of Southern California. He was escorted here by 2 Croatian San Pedrans who we're proud of, Niko Bumbak and Niko Hazovac, and also joined here by the Croatian Consul General Siniša Grgić. So we welcome you as well. Dubrovnik is known as a pearl of the Adriatics, and we know it as one of the most popular destinations in Europe. And if you're not familiar with Dubrovnik, you may recognize it for its roles as King's Landing on the HBO Games of Thrones. Dubrovnik has also been the backdrop of The Bachelorette, Amazing Race, and will also be the setting for NBC's new series called Emerald City. The beauty of the city is focused around its famous, majestic medieval walls that encircle and have protected Dubrovnik for the past 1,000 years. And the walls are 2 kilometers in length and 80 feet tall. Most recently, the city, which is a UNESCO heritage site, survived the attack of the Serb forces during the Croatia's war with Serbia in the early 1900s. And today, Dubrovnik makes it almost on every list, including the New York Times, of the most visited places in the world. And the most popular time to visit Dubrovnik is during its summer festival in July and August, where theater, opera, concerts, and dance on open-air stages are presented throughout the city every warm summer night. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for joining us. We'd like to officially welcome you to the city of Los Angeles. You just had an opportunity to meet with Mayor Garcetti as well. We say in Croatian, dobro došao, and in Dubrovnik, Kenova. Welcome to the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Should we go in the back?
Mr. Koretz, before we move on, I'd like to recognize you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to acknowledge and introduce a very special guest we have in City Hall today. She's a syndicated columnist for The Nation and The Guardian, a reporter for Rolling Stone, and a nationally and internationally known author who wrote the book This Changes Everything. She's one of the world's most high-profile climate change leaders. So please give a warm welcome to Naomi Klein. And if you'd like to take a minute or two and chat with her, she's only in City Hall for another roughly half an hour. She'll either be back here or at some point we'll go and back so people can catch her for a few minutes if you'd like.
Again, thank you for coming. Now let's take up item 6, and we're going to incorporate a couple of other items in with that, Madam Clerk, and those items are?
Items 7 and 14.
Gotcha. So, although we had an opportunity for public comment during the committee process, this is a very important issue. So I'm going to reopen public comment for 15 minutes, and I may go over to 20, but I do want to, it is important, and I'd like to at least give some of the individuals that are here an opportunity to speak. Now, and Mr. Weezer, Mr. Harris Dawson, do you want to go directly into public comment, or do you want to make statements now, or how would you like to?
Let's entertain public comment now.
Okay.
And then we'll go.
Okay, we'll do a minute each. Let's start off with, I think it's a Stephanie Gamer or Gamer. It looks like first name begins with a Z. Last name is Mann. LaSherle Porter. Eva Williams. Okay, and we will start with you.
And Mr. President, before they begin, amending motions 6A through I have been circulated.
Okay. Yes.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie Klasky Gamer with LA Family Housing, one of your partners in addressing homelessness and affordable housing, primarily for all of our colleagues on council in the San Fernando Valley. I'm joined by two of my colleagues from LA Family Housing who run one of the most robust rapid rehousing programs that the city has. And I wanted them to come and stand with me because while we are providing crisis housing as well as permanent supportive housing, while we're the lead in the coordinated entry in SPA 2 and use all of the tools you have in this plan, I'm strongly encouraging you to elevate the priority of item 10A, which is fully funding the Affordable Housing Trust Fund so that we have the capital resources needed to build more affordable housing. They can't even use all their rapid rehousing funds because there isn't enough housing stock. So I just appreciate your support, especially in coordination with the county's plan being voted on today too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good to see you again. Next, please come forward and identify yourself.
Good morning. I'm Zahira Mann. I'm with United Way of Greater Los Angeles, and I work on Home for Good, which is an initiative to end homelessness that was launched by United Way and the LA Area Chamber of Commerce, and is supported by over 200 partners. We are here in strong support of the city's comprehensive homeless strategy, and we want to start by thanking you for creating a plan that acknowledges and responds to both the affordable housing and the homeless crisis, for the unprecedented level of partnership with LA County on this work, and for the improvements made to the plan based on community feedback. We're excited to move forward towards from planning to implementation, and hope to partner with you in that effort as you look to fund these targeted strategies. Those strategies are targeted enough to fund at the level suggested, which is around 1% of the city's budget would be dedicated to homelessness and 1% for affordable housing. I want to close by just quickly quoting a letter that was submitted on behalf of the Home for Good Business Leaders Task Force, which says, while the challenges are greater than they've ever been, so is this opportunity to establish real solutions that will pay off for years down the line. Thank you.
Okay, can I have the next speaker? Again, and hold her time. We want Eva Williams, Sherry Weaver, and Pete White. Yes.
Hello, I'm LaCheryl Porter. I'm Director of Housing and Resource Management with St. Joseph Center in Venice. We are the lead service provider for Coordinated Entry in SPA 5 as well as for Homeless Family Solution System. And we serve vulnerable, homeless, and low-income families and individuals. And as we all know, finding permanent supportive housing is very difficult, but it's also difficult once you find that housing to have people wait to move in. So we definitely support the updated Section 7.0 to expand emergency shelters to include the interim housing. And we also support 7R to expand the flexible housing program because both are very important. We strongly urge the Council to pass the plan as well as urge support for the implementation of ongoing funding that was submitted. And we thank you for this opportunity to provide public feedback and the coordination with the county plan as well.
Thank you very much. If I could have the next speaker.
Hi, good morning. I'm Eva Williams, Director of the Los Angeles office of the Corporation for Supportive Housing. I'm here to advocate for approval of the city's comprehensive homeless strategy. The strategy requires a long-term commitment. Please add strategy 10A and commit to fully funding the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. In addition to allocating $100 million per year in new funding for the Supportive Housing Trust Fund, the lives of tens of thousands of our most vulnerable Angelenos depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Identify yourself.
Maureen Chris Halakis. I had submitted a card for item number 6.
Okay, I'll call you. But
okay,
if I didn't call you. So are you Miss Weaver?
I am.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Sherry Weaver. I'm from Harbor Interface Services, and I'm the CES Regional Coordinator for Service Planning Area 8. I want to thank you for taking the steps you are taking today to address the homeless crisis. Since July 2014, we have implemented the Coordinated Entry System in the South Bay. In our first year alone, we were able to permanently house 196 chronically homeless individuals. And in our second year, so far to date, we've placed another 174. We have done this work with limited staffing and housing resources. This work has not been easy, but through strong partnerships, street outreach, and passion, we have begun the work to ending homelessness. While no plan is perfect, the ideas in this plan are a good start and will help us to make an impact on the homeless population. We need to focus on the core issue, which is housing, and move away from managing homelessness from short-term solutions, calling out law enforcement and city sanitation crews. I ask for your partnership today in an effort to pass the proposed plan and funding. It is important that we have partnership in these efforts not only for this year, but also in the future.
Thank you. So if I could get Mr. Pete White, Ruth Swartz, Becky Dennison, and Deidre Harrington. Mr. White.
Pete White with the Los Angeles Community Action Network. So we recognize in this set of recommendations, we call it recommendations and not a plan, a lot of items that the community has been pushing for a long time: permit parking, public health infrastructure. We still see too many references to reports in this item. We say we want you to find a consistent source for permanent supportive affordable housing. We also see the $2.3 million allocation for El Nino as totally insufficient. We believe that El Nino is Los Angeles's Katrina. We believe that with $2.3 million, you will not be able to protect our city from the waves of deindustrialization, from revealing what gentrification has done, from revealing what criminalization continues to do. We say you must highlight criminalization, strip it, make sure it's not a part of the plan. It costs too much money. Let's walk away from that strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. So, yes, identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Ruth Schwartz. I'm the director at Shelter Partnership. I have a letter.
Sergeant, it looks like, hold her time. It looks like she wants to pass something out. They'll come up to you and get it?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, go right ahead.
So I want to thank the council for your leadership and the chairs. I want to thank the CEO and the CLA for all their hard work. And just two items that I want to highlight in my oral conversation. One is 7A, to provide bridge housing. We're especially having a problem with families. We've got HUD has defunded programs, and family shelters and transitional housing are at risk. So when you do the budget, I hope you'll look at that. There's also a motion, I know at least from Councilman Cedillo on that. And the other thing is to consider making 10A a priority, as Stephanie mentioned. We really, if we're going to solve this problem, or if we're going to come close to solving it, we really need a permanent source of financing. We can't do it on the shoestring. You don't have enough money in your general fund, so please consider prioritizing either a bond issue or real estate transfer fee. And I made my time. Thank you.
Thank you. So Becky Dennison, Ms. Harrington, Jerry Jones, Deborah Zielinski. Yes.
Hello, I'm Deirdre Harrington from Good Shepherd Shelter for Battered Women and Children. I would like to thank you for giving more consideration to domestic violence in the development of this homeless strategy. With the unique needs of victims of domestic violence, transitional housing is needed, but the needs of domestic violence victims experiencing homelessness require significant attention to safety concerns, anonymity, and to the particular trauma that they have experienced. Confidentiality for domestic victims also must be considered when designing the coordinated entry system. Thank you.
Please come forward.
Good morning. I'm Becky Dennison with Venice Community Housing. I also want to speak to the priorities that are identified as the supplement to the plan. And I want to be sure that we don't include LAPD as a priority when this council has expressly said they want to stop criminalizing homelessness. So I urge you to put in a policy statement that expresses that you are going to stop criminalize homelessness, and don't give any funds to LAPD or include them as a first responder. Councilmember Cedillo brought it up a couple of meetings ago. We have to go to a different model. Homeless outreach, homeless services, access to services has to happen separate from LAPD, and you have to explicitly say that. And instead, there's just, again, too many priorities that don't include producing new units, and we can't make all of the outreach, rapid rehousing, any of that work unless you're prioritizing funds, substantive funds for new units. So I hope that the priorities will be changed to those two things, and the rest of the plan can move forward behind that. Thank you.
Thank you. So please, Mr. Jones, Ms. Zielinski, and is it a Jason Robinson? Please come forward. Yes, sir.
Hi. I'm Jerry Jones with the Inner City Law Center. I've had the pleasure to meet with some of you over the last couple of months with delegations of providers of homeless services who have worked on this plan, and the outcome, along with the very hard work of Miguel Santana and his team, has been to produce a comprehensive homelessness strategy. So I urge you all to vote for it. We need to move forward. And this is, I think, one of those moments in elected office where good politics align with good public policy and doing the right thing for people who are in need. The people of Los Angeles want to see homelessness dealt with, and this is an important first step in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Deborah Zielinski. I'm 47 years old, and I've been in permanent housing in Pacoima in San Fernando Valley for 3 years. I first became homeless at the age of 17, right after having my first daughter. I was homeless and bouncing between treatment centers and jail on the streets 30 years because of untreated mental illness. When I wasn't in the streets, I was in abusive relationships. Supportive housing was necessary for my recovery. It's not easy to stop using drugs and get help with mental illness in the streets. Without housing, I never would have had the chance to heal or the ability to address my mental illness. I wish it could have happened a lot sooner, but I'm grateful it happened at all. Now I advocate with CSH, Corporations for Supportive Housing, and help others to tell their story to educate the community. Thank you so much for the effort you've put into creating a real plan to fight homelessness. Please consider using individuals with backgrounds in homelessness to be a part of your policy, making decisions, and please continue to partner with the county and the rest of our community. There are so many more like me that can be given back their hope. Thank you.
Thank you. So if I could have next. And then I want to... Nisha Vallas, Anne Sophie Morissette, Aaron Jimenez. Yes, sir.
I'm Jason Robinson with SHARE, and our collaborative housing program is a shared housing program across Los Angeles. I want to commend everybody who's worked on the report. for embracing a comprehensive strategy that includes multiple approaches, and emphasize that in item 7P, in looking at shared housing, that we particularly look at ways to use existing housing resources and landlords that makes using their properties available for shared housing. I also want to say that when we look at the shelter crisis and when we're talking about shelters, having the city find a way to create parameters so that when we identify people in a shelter that have income through SSI, we also find a way for them to be able to use their SSI to afford housing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, please, identify yourself.
Good morning, Nisha Vyas with Public Counsel. I just want to express our appreciation to the hard work of the Homelessness and Poverty Committee and the city staff and officials who've all participated in creating this plan, which responds to both the affordable housing crisis and the homelessness crisis. It also incorporates in a very real way community feedback. I do encourage the council to pass this plan and continue to engage with the community, with service providers, housing providers, and the population of persons experiencing homelessness. We also encourage the council to turn to finding the permanent source of funding for creating the units that are going to be necessary to house persons who are experiencing homelessness and to deal with the affordable housing crisis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, council members. I'm Anne-Sophie Morissette with the Downtown Women's Center. And I'm here today to say that we're thrilled that the city is putting forward together such a comprehensive plan. And most importantly, has recognized homeless women in a dedicated strategy. We want to thank you for addressing the domestic violence and other forms of trauma as a key factor in homelessness for women. And we know that the challenge now lies in the implementation and the full funding of the plan. You can count on us to be vocal and supportive of the resources needed, including, as some of my colleagues have mentioned, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This year, Downtown Women's Center is launching a national campaign on women's homelessness. And we are very proud of our city today. We think that this is a remarkable strategy that focuses on homeless women. We believe LA is placed to make a national impact and provide an example for cities across the country that women's homelessness can and must be addressed. We're looking forward to continuing to work with you, and we thank you all.
Thank you. So if I could have this, Aaron?
Yes, Aaron.
So if I can call up Mr. Newman, Jerry Newman, and I think it's a David Cheney or Davis Cheney. Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Aaron Jimenez with the Central City Association. CCA commends the city for its comprehensive homeless strategy. We believe it is an excellent report with strong recommendations, and we are encouraged by the partnership with the county and the city. CCA offers the following recommendations as short-term solutions to address the serious homelessness crisis facing the city. Adopt a new ordinance which regulates personal property on sidewalks. Fund additional sanitation workers to maintain safe and clean sidewalks. Hire more outreach workers to connect homeless individuals to appropriate services. Keep the current winter shelters open 24 hours a day, year-round, and fund urgent care beds to treat mentally ill homeless individuals. Thank you.
Please, next. Identify yourself.
Thank you. My name is David Cheney. I'm one of your criminalized housing providers here in Los Angeles. I wanted to express, first of all, my gratitude to Councilman Fuentes for starting to do something about these illegal kicking people out because of supposed illegal conversions. I had a unit on Bonnie Brae, 3 units, have had it since 2002. Suddenly, after 4 inspections and paying registration for the last 13 years, the city inspector decided the unit was illegal and made me kick the tenant to the curb and pay him $10,000 and $5,000 almost in fines. And I asked the people out at housing, I said, how do you justify this? And the person at housing, and I have names for you if you're curious of who these people are, said to me, it's the money. It's for money. I said, well, that's very interesting. And I looked at all the tenants there who were there that day, and I said, you know, you got to realize the housing department is not your friends. They will throw you to the curb for $5,000. Last year, 1,800 units converted, made tenants kicked to the curb because of the housing department.
Thank you.
Shame on you guys.
Thank you. So if I could get Mr. Newman, if he's here, Jerry Newman, Alice, is it Wetzling, and Josh Albrechtson, and I think that's Don Garza. Please come forward. Please come forward. Identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Alicia Witzling with the LA Area Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Chamber, which represents over 1,600 organizations and 650,000 employees in the region, I'm here to express our support for the Council's effort to end homelessness. What you have before you is a resounding statement that the city recognizes the issue and intends to be a major part of the solution. Before the United Way and the Chamber launched Home for Good, the initiative to end chronic and veteran homelessness, our leaders in D.C. told us regional politics made it too hard to get done. This plan, in partnership with the county, proves that we can. Now let's work on getting funding at the level suggested. Homelessness, we know, responds to investments. We welcome the leadership of the Council on this issue, and we pledge our commitment to ensuring everyone has the stability and safety of a home. Thank you.
Thank you. Please identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Dr. Joshua Brooks. I'm a downtown resident. On behalf of myself and a bunch of my friends in downtown, we appreciate everything you're doing. We hope you pass this unchanged and to save time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Garza, followed by Mr. Previn, followed by Mr. Gus. Yes.
Well, guys, it's about time. At first, I was going to come up here and say that I do not see the law of accelerating exponential returns on this governmental policy that you've created. But although we know that the money is not there, we know it's not there, we also understand we do live in an exponential world that progresses exponentially. So, creating the plans now does not mean we may not wake up tomorrow with $1 trillion from the federal government. Create the plans. Keep it going. Continue to do this. Don't stop. On another issue, $2.1 million, almost in the middle of February, for El Nino. Mr. Weezer, why did we wait so long? 3 people died in your district in January. We continue to work slowly in saving the lives of your constituents on the streets. I have no respect for you, none whatsoever anymore. If you allow these people down the streets, you'll let me die on the streets.
Okay, Mr. Gus, Mr. Walsh, and Mr. Previn. Yes.
Poverty is God's way of testing you. That is a direct quote from Herb Wesson to constituents, and I heard it directly. Until and unless City Hall changes that mindset, you're never going to fix the problem. And again, I'm going to restate that quote, that misguided quote from Mr. Wesson, that poverty is God's way of testing you. You've got to change that mentality. Jobs, development, mental health, healthcare equality. That's how you get people off the street. Similarly, the city council has to clean its house of people who have encouraged violence against homeless people. And you've seen the document before from Mayor Villaraigosa's office in which somebody who is still employed by the city was suspended for encouraging violence against homeless people, Jim Bickhart.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Last call for Mr. Previn.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems. I'd ask for a simple amendment which will solve the problem of homelessness immediately. And that is convert Union Station into a homeless center. Anyone who wants to go there, anyone who wants to live there, anyone who wants to cook, whatever you want to do. And every single subway station in Los Angeles, all Red Line stations, will become homeless centers. Now, they're de facto homeless centers now. That's why you see almost no white people using the subway, because they're afraid of being around minority homeless. If It is the answer to everything. We have a lot of space down there. We have the homeless can use their iPhones and their iPads. They're doing it right now. If you want to talk to the homeless, go to a Red Line station.
Okay, thank you. As I said earlier, we were going to reopen public comment. We are already 6 minutes over public comment. So with that, Madam Clerk, City Attorney, I'm going to close public comment, and I'm going to defer to the chair, Mr. Marquise Harris Dawson.
Thank you so much, Mr. President and colleagues. Today's vote.
Let me just say this. Those of you that have cards, we will have them submitted into the record. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, and thank you to the members for being here and being focused on this very important issue for the city of Los Angeles. I also want to thank everybody who came to testify today, those who got to speak and those who didn't, and the hundreds of people that shared their story during this process. This committee was started back in June of 2015 under the leadership of Councilmember Huizar at the direction of our council president, who called on the city to take a hard look at this problem of homelessness and come up with a plan that has guideposts and measurable outcomes for the city to follow. And so after a 7-month process, we're here today with a plan that focuses on many of the various touch points and antecedents and successful programs that we've seen that deal with the different populations of homeless people throughout the city. Folks with mental health conditions, folks who are victims of domestic violence, folks transitioning out of the foster care system, folks transitioning out of prison, and a host of other conditions that end up in homelessness on our streets throughout our city. We focused on some key principles and key areas, including our coordinated entry system, the no wrong door policy, housing first. We spent a lot of time and will continue in the future to deal with first responder interactions. We had a joint hearing with the mental health committee under Mr. Rue's leadership, one of the members of our committee with expertise in mental health. We looked a lot at housing with the housing committee, governance, facilities, land use and zoning, and almost all the members of the committee went around to a range of both homeless shelters, transitional housing facilities, permanent supportive housing facilities, and almost all of us have in our districts at least one encampment. And I think almost every member I've talked to has visited one encampment or worked to get an encampment moved. And so we've got we've got high touch on this issue. I want to make sure we recognize and thank the members of the committee, members Bonin, Cedillo, Price, and my co-chair, Mr. Huizar, and also the council president and the CAO and CLA staff. As they come up to give us an overview of the document that we're presenting to you today, I also want to point out to everybody under the sound of our voice that this morning I spent some time at the County Board of Supervisors, spoke with every member of the Board of Supervisors, was allowed to speak, and we're very excited that today, we don't know if they've done it just yet, but today they will pass a strategic plan. Our plan is in coordination and complementary of their plan, and so we think the people of Southern California are getting the best bang for their buck towards solving this part of the problem. And so we want to thank the County Board of Supervisors and also thank the political leader of our city, Mayor Eric Garcetti, who's continued to press the point that we get to zero homelessness in the near future. So I want to call up our CAO and CLA, who will walk us through a PowerPoint presentation.
You know what? Let's see if Mr. Huizar, did you want to, before you begin the PowerPoint, say a few words?
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And it's exciting to be here after months of work in the committee. I want to again thank the committee and our co-chair, Marquise Harris Dawson, for getting us here today, and also the public who came forward and testified after countless meetings. What's interesting about today is that we have not had, in the recent memory of the city, discussion like the way we've had about homelessness. And we have not had a direction about where we want to be in the future as a city when we deal with homelessness. What's different today and the direction that we're going is that we are turning from being reactive to proactive in setting the policy direction of the city. No longer will we set policy simply by court directives and court orders about what we can and cannot be doing. We're going to be proactive in working with the countless of stakeholders and supporters of homelessness to move forward in a direction that is better indicative of what the city is about. And secondly, what is different is in the past, where our only resource at our disposal to deal with homelessness was to send law enforcement, to send our hardworking men and women in LAPD. But that should not be the approach, as we've heard over and over from public speakers and from what this council has said over and over. That's what's going to be fundamentally different, because we are acknowledging that the city, under our jurisdictional powers of the charter, have other resources at our disposal on to how to deal with homelessness and not just leave it up to the law enforcement. That has been our primary approach in dealing with homelessness in the past. What's different as well is that we are finally building the institutional infrastructure in the city that we so desperately need to handle homelessness. We need one person, and it's not going to be sporadic anymore, but our coordinator that we are putting forward in this plan is going to provide that infrastructure along with working with the council and the Permanent Homeless Committee and our mayor to set the direction, long-term policy direction for this city on homelessness, to implement this policy and to move us forward. And that person, as we move forward, is going to build the institutional knowledge that the city lacks. Right now, elected officials come and go, institutional knowledge come and go, ideas on homelessness come and go, but the city needs to build that institutional knowledge that could continue even after those of us who are here are gone. And finally, there are some benchmarks that will show us whether or not we are committed to doing something about homelessness today. It's been noted that this is not the first time the city stands up and says they want to do something on homelessness. In the past, it's like cyclical, like the economy. They come and say we're going to do something about homelessness, and that disappears. We are not only building the institutional knowledge and institutional infrastructure, but the benchmarks we are setting forward are going to be so important. One of those first benchmarks is the $100 million commitment that we've made that will supplement what we are already spending on homelessness, and that's going to come up in our budget cycle. So we're asking the public, keep us accountable. See that in that budget as we adopt it for this coming fiscal year, that those $100 million or more is in there. That's going to be our first benchmark. Our second benchmark is to assure that we have a long-term strategy in how we're going to fund the Housing Trust Fund and the housing units we need. We have put forward a motion where our CLA and CAO is looking into the options about possibly passing a voter-approved bond so that we get the money we need to build the housing units that we need. That could either go on the November ballot or the March ballot. And finally, something that you could keep us accountable as well is that in this plan, we have to change our laws. We have to change legislation. We have to be hard at work these next few months that whatever we can do within this plan to change those rules and laws, that we do that to implement this policy. That could happen within 6 months. It doesn't have to happen any longer than that. Hopefully we get to work, roll up their sleeves, and deliver to the public, deliver to the people on the streets, and show that the city of Los Angeles is serious, that we are going to implement this, and those benchmarks are in there for the public to keep us accountable. And last but not least, I want to thank the CLA and the CIO for your hard work, and our council president who initiated a discussion on this, set up the committees to move forward. And I wanted to acknowledge just one last time our co-chair, Marquise Harris Dawson, who has been working diligently on this. And along when this was first announced at committee, our Councilmember Bonin, who is just deep into this, knows the issues inside out, and all the other committee members, Price, Cedillo, and whoever was on the ad hoc, I don't know what shift happened there, but now Felipe Fuentes was on the ad hoc. Thank you, all of you, for the work you've done, initiating this, starting this off. The conversations we've had both in public and off the sidelines, have been so instrumental in getting us where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, and I want to thank you and Mr. Harris Dawson and all of the members of the Homeless Committee. In fact, all of the members on the council have participated in one way or the other. So we're excited about where we are today. With that said, Mr. Harris Dawson, we go back to you, or do we want to go straight? Okay, so we'll go straight to Miguel and Sharon, and we want to thank your offices as well.
Thank you. Miguel Santana, City Administrative Officer. We have a brief PowerPoint presentation to give you an overview of the comprehensive strategy, and then the CLA will walk through the next steps. This plan was prepared under the leadership of Councilmen Huizar and Harris Dawson, and of course the Homeless Committee, the Housing Committee, the Mental Health and Healthcare Committee, and in partnership with the Mayor, the United Way, the County, LAHSA. So it incorporates 62 strategies to systematically address the issue of homelessness in a comprehensive manner, looking at the overall population, those individuals who are chronic homeless, who've been homeless for a big part of their lives, as well as for those individuals who are recently homeless. So it seeks to provide a series of recommendations to address over a period of 10 years. It was done in coordination with the County of Los Angeles. Our strategies identify where it is that the county and the city could work together, what strategies the county will be doing on their own, and what strategies the city would be doing on its own. And the county, as Mr. Harris Dawson indicated, is adopting the plan today. And they are encouraging not only our city, but all the other cities in the county to do similar work that we've done here, so that there's a regional approach to the overall issue. This plan proposes both short-term and long-term strategies. In fact, nearly half of the strategies that are in here address the immediate crisis that we're seeing out in the streets, and they inform budget priorities that the committee has outlined. And then, as part of the budget, this plan seeks to use the budget process as the first real investment in this area beyond the commitment that you've already made. It's important that you be reminded and the public understand that in this year alone, your council has doubled the amount of funding towards homelessness in the middle of the year and will continue to do so in the future. At the core of this strategy are four basic ideas. The first is really to aggressively move forward in identifying and addressing the issues and the circumstances that create homelessness. From the city systems, looking at our land use policies and how we in fact could start facilitating the creation of more housing, particularly for the homeless population, and affordable housing overall. And in coordination with the county identifies ways in which their systems actually contribute to homelessness and seek to proactively eliminate the loopholes in the foster care system, healthcare system, and justice system. And of course, there are other issues that result from addiction, eviction, and family crises that the county is proposing to address in their overall plan. At the core of the system is the coordinated entry system. This is an idea that was established by the United Way and now has been part of the support of nonprofit organizations throughout the city and throughout the region to connect a homeless individual to a case manager, and through that connection move that person into housing as quickly as possible. Using the tools of rapid rehousing and other vouchers, coordinating with the county to ensure their supportive services, and addressing the immediate needs. This system is intended so that every single homeless person is identified. There's a plan to help that person move into housing and stay in housing. And in aggregate, this information will help the city and the county better understand how we can meet the needs of the homeless population on an annual basis, because we'll actually have real-time data on the needs of this community. There are a number of strategies in here to help coordinate and strengthen the system, particularly in the subpopulations that it's applied to. And what we're recommending is not that the city or the county do this work, but rather that we support the work that's already being done by the nonprofit community. You can't solve homelessness without housing, and this plan makes a number of recommendations to improve and maximize the number of housing units that are available, both in terms of permanent supportive housing as well as rapid rehousing for someone who's recently homeless. And of course, this plan, as Mr. Cedillo indicated, also fully adopts all of the recommendations of the Housing Committee and the plan that's been adopted under his leadership. And then the final piece, of course, is the services, and this is where the county role is so critical. The county it tends to strengthen its outreach to this community, ensure that mental health services are provided to them, healthcare services, and other services as needed. On the city side, we are recommending that we actually, as we begin to restore services, move aggressively to hire former homeless individuals as part of the city family, and working in partnership with the Department of Economic and Workforce Development to do so. The other unique aspect of this plan compared to others is that it actually identifies the roles and responsibilities of the various jurisdictions involved. It outlines how the city, where the city should make an investment, how the county will take on its responsibility in partnership with us, what the role of LAHSA would be, and we recommend a number of strategies to strengthen that role so there's better coordination on an ongoing basis between the city and the county. And then ultimately, how do we strengthen the infrastructure of nonprofit organizations that already do this work every single day, and try to tie together one systematic approach to provide those services to this community, and then an ongoing system in place both within the city family to coordinate this work, as well as an ongoing way of integrating that work with the county. This plan talks significantly about the kind of investment that would be necessary, and as you've heard, it's not going to be something that's going to come easily. We anticipate that there will need to be nearly a $2 billion investment in housing, and we're recommending two different kinds of housing. The first kind of housing is done through vouchers and other kind of rapid rehousing to move people into housing immediately. This is a system that has proven to be very effective, particularly in the mayor's efforts to address homelessness among veterans. It's not only proven to be effective here in Los Angeles, but around the country. And as we move people into those housing through the vouchers, we also recommend that we build a capacity of affordable housing throughout the city. And the overall cost, as I mentioned, is about $2 billion. We need funds for both flexible purposes to help fund the voucher program, and we also need dedicated source of funds for purposes of building housing. And the important part to mention in making that investment is that the city's portion in that investment is a small piece compared to the other dollars that we leverage, both through private investment, tax credits, funds that may be available at the state and the federal governments. I won't go into all of the different strategies, but in here you will find, as I mentioned, 62 different strategies that seek to prevent homelessness, strengthen case management, increase the housing stock that we currently have through a variety of different initiatives, including addressing some of the barriers in our planning process, supportive services, and then overall governance. And with that, I'll turn it over to the CLA.
Good morning, Sharon So, CLA. So with regard to the next steps, if the council approves the comprehensive strategy as presented to you, and of course there are a series of amendments as well, we will begin the implementation phase for this. This will involve a series of reports back to the various committees. We will be publishing the final strategy as adopted by this council, and then we will be reporting to you on the various funding options that could be available to you. This was pursuant to a motion that was already introduced, and we plan on coming back to the various council committees to discuss the funding options, specifically those funds that may be city-controlled right now, potentially new fees, ballot measures, and there are some important timelines to keep in mind with regard to any potential ballot measures. If we were to propose something for November, the council would need to take official action sometime by the end of June. If we were to go to the March ballot, the official deadline would be sometime in early November. So with that, as part of the strategy, our offices will be working on each one of these. We will be refining any cost estimates, as well as coming back to you with timelines on implementation, and we expect all of these to actually be coming back to the various committees of council for implementation.
Well, thank you for the presentation. I'd like to recognize Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to thank everybody for the work that they've done on this amazing plan. I think to solve a problem like this, the first step is to really have a roadmap, and I think this supplies that. One of the things I would encourage is for us to look at the least costly, low-hanging fruit. For me, the first step to focus on, I would say, and it's part of this plan, is family reunification. And clearly, there are a lot of folks who don't know that they have a relative. They have a son or a daughter or a nephew or a cousin or a brother that's on the streets in the city of Los Angeles. And there are a lot of folks that would happily take them back and support them. And there are certainly some folks that would happily accept that. So, I've talked to nonprofits about it. Some organizations focus on it, some don't. I don't believe the city or the county has necessarily put a lot of focus on this to date, but it would be an inexpensive way to help a lot of people. Rather than finding them housing, we would find them housing with people that support them and love them. And it would cost us less money. And if they live somewhere outside the general area and their family can't pay to bring them back, we could pay for that. It still would be a lot less expensive and a lot more humane and supportive. So that would be my encouragement. Two other things which are covered, but I'm not sure with as much focus as I'd like. I think there are two entry points to homelessness. One is the foster care system, and one is the jail system. The jail system, particularly at the state level, but now many folks are coming to the county, is horribly flawed. We have by far the worst recidivism record in California compared to the rest of the country. Last I checked, it was 2-to-1 over the next worst state, something like 70%. So what I would suggest with both of these entry points is that we need to take a number of steps so that people never become homeless. They need job training. In many cases, in both systems, they need literacy. They need jobs. They need a mentor. They need housing, and they need some sort of a caseworker, or in the case of the jails, obviously a parole officer, but they need someone to watch over them and make sure they don't slip and don't wind up homeless. And all those steps sound expensive, but they can't be more expensive than then having someone on the street and then trying to pay and build housing for them. We're talking about an estimate of $1.9 billion. I'm not sure exactly how accurate that is, but it's a big number regardless. And so anything that we can do to divert people from being homeless and then having to house them, or to keep them from becoming homeless in the first place, I think is the best opportunity for us. So whatever we can do to avoid having to take that last step of housing them and providing all the services, although we'll have to do a lot of that, I think is critical.
Thank you. Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to Miguel and Sharon and your teams, to Mr. Huizar, Mr. Harris-Dawson, Mr. Wesson for helping us get to this point today. It's a big day that we finally have come up with a strategy, that we've worked together with the county. That's something that hasn't happened in the past. Yesterday someone asked me, a reporter said, what's the one thing that stands out for you about this plan? And I said, honestly, the one thing that stands out about this plan is that there is no one thing that stands out about this plan. It is comprehensive. It's from A to Z. It looks not just at the need for permanent supportive housing, but also for proposals to deal with the crisis on our streets, the city of encampments that we've become. It looks at bridge housing. It looks at shared housing. It looks at rapid rehousing to get people off the streets more quickly. It's extremely comprehensive, and it needs to be, because we have such a variety of homelessness in Los Angeles. Tonight in Los Angeles, in Venice Beach, there is going to be people who are teenage runaways, victims of sexual and physical abuse, who are going to sleep on the street. Tonight in Los Angeles is going to be a veteran who has a housing voucher, who still hasn't got a place to live. Tonight in Los Angeles, there are going to be victims of domestic violence who are losing 200 shelter beds in Los Angeles because of HUD guidelines, who don't have a place to go. And it's urgent that we act to help them. I had a half dozen people die on the steps of my Westchester office just last year. People are literally dying on the steps of city buildings because of this. And it's a big deal that we've worked with the county and that we have a comprehensive strategy. But I don't want us to get too excited about the fact that we've got here. It's a very important thing. But if solving homelessness is a marathon, all we've done today is fill out the registration forms. This is a long uphill slog. The finish line is very far away. And we have to stay incredibly focused, and we have to do this as if we are running a marathon. When the fiscal weather gets bad, we still need to continue to make the commitment. If we get distracted by other things or there's roadblocks that come in our path, we have to stay focused upon the strategy that we've outlined here today. The real test for us isn't what we're approving today. The real test is going to be in the budget come April and May. The real test is going to be in November if we put something on the ballot and the voters are willing to back us on it. And the real test is going to be about what we do in our districts. There have been so many plans that have been announced over the years that have all failed because of a failure of political will. And we all, each of us, owe it to the people of Los Angeles, the neighborhoods of Los Angeles, to come up with individual implementation plans for this proposal in our districts. I will definitely be bringing mobile showers. I will definitely be doing public storage. I will definitely be using city properties to build permanent supportive housing. We absolutely need to do it because we're not going to be measured by what we're doing here today. We're going to be measured by what we do in the budget and by what we do in our districts in the coming weeks and months and years. Thanks again for your work on this.
Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. and colleagues, everyone who had a hand in this, thank you for coming up with this very, very thoughtful plan today. I just want to go over a few things, and I'm going to have a question for you here. I have introduced an amending motion on the Homeless Strategy Report, Section 7N, recommendation number 5, which deals with youth housing needs. And it specifically deals with transition-aged youth, which is between the ages of 16 and 25. This recommendation came from a very, very experienced source. Carrie Morrison, who has pioneered the Housing First process in Hollywood, which is really becoming a model for the entire city. Also, this addresses an acute need we have, not just in Hollywood, but across the city, especially with a higher percentage of our homeless youth being in the LGBT community. And what this simply does, and I was a little surprised at the arbitrary removal of this, so I'm glad that we're reinstituting it, is it calls for a further study for actually including doubling up in Section 8 units for transitional aged homeless youth or youth at risk of homelessness. I think it's a very important measure, and the reason I want to see the report back is if this is an issue in some of our districts in terms of the doubling up and emancipated youth, et cetera, then perhaps we can come up with conditions that will manage these situations better. But without a study, we're never going to know, and if we don't have this included, we're never even going to entertain the idea of giving greater assistance to our homeless youth, which is very, very important. And so I'm glad to see that is going back in there and that's supported. And then in terms of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, 10A, and calling for the full funding, since my first day in office, I've been calling for monies to go back into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, because without funding, this plan means absolutely nothing. I'm confident that with the determination of the people around this horseshoe and city leadership and all the agencies involved, we will identify the $100 million either per year or to get us to $2 billion in 10. We'll figure it out, but we have to make those decisions, as you just mentioned, Mike, in terms of really coming up with the money. I had asked in year one of being in office for some of the Boomerang Fund money to go back into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It's been 4 years now since that has been, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund has been replenished with Boomerang funds. I'm hoping that we can perhaps entertain the idea of a percentage of those monies going back in that's reasonable and will actually help get us to the $100 million. And that brings me to my question, Mr. Santana, about how much money do we currently have in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund?
I don't know the exact number. I saw Rushmore here earlier. I don't know if he's still here.
Approximately $20 million. Okay, that's about what I thought. It's probably $20 million and going down. So we have to replenish it, because a lot of our affordable housing partners are nonprofits. They'll put together a funding package of 7 or 8 funding elements, and the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is one of those elements, and that's quickly slipping away. And so many times it's that one element that helps these affordable or permanent supportive housing projects pencil out. We also talked about...
Watch your time.
Okay. We also talked about affordable housing across the entire city. Jose and I have a value capture motion that is still pending in the Housing Committee. I'm hoping to see that out so that we can adopt it for the full city councils at some point, because that puts private developers in the business of building affordable housing across the entire city. And I would like to explore what mechanism could be part of that ordinance, should we get there, that would create permanent supportive housing for the homeless as well. We can be very creative with coming up with these funds. It doesn't have to all be from the general fund. We don't have to, all come from the same public well of funding. We have to be very creative. And in this unprecedented growth that we're seeing across the city, I think that we need to explore ways to have all hands on deck for funding. And that's what I wanted to talk about. And I also have, I'll punch my button again, Mr. President.
Well, let's just punch it again then.
Okay, but I wanted to talk about the El Nino piece as well.
Okay,
So
when you punch it again, we'll do that. All right, Mr. Rue. And Mr. Rue, before you start, I do want to thank you and indicate that you bring a different element to this conversation based on your experience in mental health and with the county. And I think just having you here is going to prove to be to our advantage going forward. So thank you for the work that you've done. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. And yes, I've been working closely with my colleagues, the co-chairs, Harris Dawson and Councilman Huizar, on this. And I really want to thank the CAO, the CLA, the mayor's office, all the various other the members of the Homeless and Poverty Committee, as well as everybody else who took part. You know, this is a real, very comprehensive and highly collaborative plan. And this is seriously a monumental opportunity in time. I mean, I've worked for the county in the past. As my colleagues mentioned, this isn't the first time we've declared a war on homelessness. But the difference this time is that we're truly, truly working together. It's not just the city and the county, the feds and the state, but it's also the county government merging all their silos together. It's the city, it's our functions, seeing how we could coordinate all these responses. So this is one of the most opportune times, and I think this is a very promising opportunity for us. But I just want to highlight 2 points on the plan. As reflected throughout the plan, not just our plan, but the county's plan, it states clearly that the city, we cannot achieve a reduction in homelessness unilaterally. We can't do this on our own. We have to play a huge part, but I really, really want to focus the importance of the county's plan. I just want to highlight one case in point. I mentioned this before in our joint committee. The Department of Mental Health, just one department from the County of Los Angeles, their budget is $2 billion, which is approximately a quarter of our general fund budget. And again, talking with you, Miguel, and the CLA and others, I'm glad to know that on our side, our plan realizes this, and we work to fill the gaps where the county cannot cover, and we also support the county in the areas where they are lead. And second point, guiding principle number 6 of the 14 guiding principles, it reads, take a coordinated response, preventing those at risk of homelessness from becoming homeless in the first place, identifying and engaging those who are homeless and connecting them with case management, and matching homeless people with housing and the support they need to remain stable and housed. I want to reiterate, and I fully agree with what Councilman Huizar says. I really want to challenge my colleagues that we add a 4th function by pursuing legislative options and change. For example, re-exploring the 5150 laws, Laurel's Law, which is involuntary treatment, possibly even extending the rights of parents to TAY-age youth, to transitional age youth. A lot of this is beyond our control. It's more state and federal legislation. But like many things, I think LA could be a champion. We could be the catalyst for change. And, we're going to start this discussion in my committee, Health, Mental Health, and Education, and I'd love to bring this discussion back to the entire council. This is just the beginning, and as Councilmember Bonin stated earlier, a plan is only a plan, and it's only as worth as the paper it's written on. The real hard part's going to be implementation and execution. But, with a united front, with all of our colleagues, I have no doubt that we're not going to be able to tackle this challenge. So thank you for all your efforts, and thanks to all my colleagues for even bringing us to this point. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I would just say the difference, guys, and Ms. Martinez, with this plan is this is the first time that you have ever seen anything as comprehensive as this. And I commend this council for the work that they've done. Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, want to just join in saluting my colleagues, Marquise Harris Dawson and Jose Huizar, for their leadership, their singular leadership on this issue, along with my colleagues, and for the CAO and CLA for your guidance in helping us to marshal a plan that makes some sense. And of course, our mayor and President Wesson appreciate the leadership and the opportunities to work on these issues. As we all know, the causes are complicated and varied for individuals who are in this situation. But I think that the policies and strategies that we are adopting today will permit us to leverage some limited resources in ways that we haven't before, to save lives and to save families. The exciting thing about this plan is that it does require, it encourages, I should say, a city and county partnership in ways apparently that has not occurred before. I think that's significant. It's also encouraging our city departments to work closer together, as I've experienced firsthand in some of our efforts. And in fact, members, I think it's going to give us a chance to tighten up and to expand opportunities and services in our individual districts, as Mr. Bonin suggested earlier. In District 9, which has the second highest population of homeless, for example, we've instituted a weekly task force so that we're in touch with all the stakeholders and service providers, and so we're all kind of on the same page in the district. I'm covering the cost of 2 outreach workers, and in fact they're housed in our district office. So again, they can be closer to where needs are, and we can be dispatched and coordinated in ways that are going to provide even better results. And I think generally my staff at the City Hall level and in the district office now are certainly much better informed, better aware, more sensitive to opportunities and obstacles associated with dealing with this issue. And so I'm excited that we're moving forward. I think this is an important policy statement, and I think it's going to provide with a roadmap in a variety of areas that will help us impact this problem. Obviously, we need to find some permanent solutions, permanent solutions. Many of our efforts here are stopgap or temporary or sort of holding the wall. But we obviously got to find permanent solutions to these problems. But I'm happy to be a part of this discussion, happy that we're moving forward in I think, a positive, progressive way that's sensitive and that's respectful of limitations we have, but also gives us a chance to dream for achieving greater goals that will benefit not just the individuals that we want to serve, but our broader community. And so thank you, colleagues.
Mr. Englander.
You know, in looking at this plan, listening to what Mike said about this being a marathon, and we're just now filling out the registration card, hearing that we've got a homeless problem. It's not a problem, it's a disaster. And homelessness is not a diagnosis. It's not a condition, it's a crime. It's a crime of mental health. It's a crime of drug addiction, financial ruin. It's a crime of domestic violence. It's a crime of PTSD and isolation, lack of services, lack of collaboration. It's a crime. And these aren't statistics. These aren't numbers on a page. These are victims. Thousands and thousands of victims. The plan here today is not a plan that says we cannot fail. We've already failed. Decades of lack of collaboration, lack of supportive housing, lack of financial restraint to make sure that we dedicate the necessary programs and resources, lack of so many things. That's what this recognizes today. In 1975, there was a 5-year-old boy, and he remembers running out of the house and watching his father, who was a 100% disabled vet, pack up the family station wagon with all his things, not the family's, but his, and left for good, left the family. And soon after, that family lost their house, was evicted from their home. Single mom, couldn't pay the mortgage, and moved into an apartment. I was that 5-year-old boy. I remember coming home one day from school and seeing a notice on the door, taped by the landlord. It said eviction. That was our last resort. It's the last place we had to go. My brother moved into foster care, and my sister moved out. Unfortunately, we had one family member who took us in. He was later killed by some gangbangers. This, to me, is criminal. The fact that we're here today talking about one of the biggest problems facing one of the most incredible cities in the most incredible countries in this day and age, that so many families are living under bridges and bushes, under highway overpasses, in their cars, in garages. It's defining not only the fact that this has been failure for years. This plan can't fail. There's too much at risk. There's too much at stake. There's too many people who count on it. It is not a privilege to have shelter. It's a God-given right. And it's one of the most important things we need to do as a government body. And therefore, I will continue to fight and work with all of you in everything we possibly can do, day in and day out, to make sure that we make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Mr. Englander. Thank you very much. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you. Well said, Mitchell. That was deep. Colleagues, today we are taking the appropriate steps forward on this comprehensive solution to homelessness. And Mr. Engler is absolutely right. Time and time again, city, county, state, federal government has failed the system, has failed this issue. I want to recognize Sherry Weaver, who's here, our SPY coordinator, also sits in our San Pedro Homelessness Task Force. In my district alone, we just opened 79 permanent supportive housing units. We have an additional 230 units in line, going through the, indicating the importance of housing, the Housing First model. Over the weekend, I want to share with you, colleagues, what I read. Every week, our weekly status report. This came from Nicole Wells, who's our constituent services manager. I want to read what she wrote in the report. This incident was highlighted, reported on our Facebook feed. An individual on 7th and Gaffey, a block away from Cabrillo Avenue Elementary School, where the homeless individual was lying in his own urine and feces, and kids walking to Cabrillo Avenue Elementary School had to walk around him on their way to school. Nicole wrote, LAHSA responded and met with Mr. Williams, a homeless male at this location. During their conversation, Mr. Williams stated that he's a veteran. Harbor Interfaith was notified, Sherry was notified, and a VA rep will come see him as soon as she verifies Mr. Williams' status. They offered services and shelter. Mr. Williams refused. Aside from being intoxicated, he was very polite. Also, they asked if he would change his location, and he stated this: I've ran out of corners. Mr. Williams has run out of corners. He's physically disabled. LAHSA felt it'd be ideal to place him in a motel. However, he doesn't have a photo ID. LAHSA will help get him one. He moved on Thursday evening, and the car wash helped clean the mess left behind. Mr. Williams has run out of corners. This is one of thousands of stories that we hear on a nightly basis here in the city of Los Angeles. And I hope and pray that with this long-term plan, we don't have Mr. Williams in our city, especially in light of, our the Holy Father, Pope Francis, calls this year to be the year of mercy. Let us be reminded of that as we prepare in moving forward on this plan. However, I know this is a long-term plan. We need to know what we're doing today. What are we doing tonight in addressing this issue? And I feel that both our, public safety and our public health are in jeopardy today in the city of Los Angeles as it relates to the number of encampments that we're seeing across the city of Los Angeles. And in order for us to solve the homelessness problem, both police and the fire departments need to be a part of the solution. For years, our police officers, along with firefighters, have been on the front lines dealing with the symptoms of homelessness, while the city and the county lack the coordinated and comprehensive strategy to address the root causes of homelessness. There are a few city departments that not only has personnel on duty 24 hours a day, but also on the streets, proactively patrolling the street and responding to emergency calls, and that's LAPD and the LA Fire Department. Over half of our general fund spending is already allocated to the LA Police Department, so I want to make sure that these strategies in place pertain to the LAPD are considered a top priority. I also want to ensure that LAPD is not restricted in their ability to ensure public safety, which overall is our #1 priority in this city. So if you can, Miguel, can you touch on the strategy in place to develop that standardized first responder training described in Strategy 3A, and how soon can we expect the LAPD and the LA Sheriff's Department to develop that standardized training? And also, I'm encouraged about the Strategy 3D. It relates to expanding jail in reach. I mean, Sherry and I have stories of working with...
Joe.
Yes.
Watch it. Finish.
Yes,
wrap it up.
Sherry and I have stories of working with the homeless when I was a senior lead officer. And during the booking process was the only time I was able to reach out and offer services, because jail is the rock bottom moment that will propel many people, especially addicts, to seek that help. So is the jail-in research being piloted in any jails around the country? And then I'll push my button again. Can you just share on those 2 points?
Sure. The Jail and Reach program is actually currently in place in the Sheriff's Department, and a major part of their recommendations is to significantly expand that program. And we're recommending in our strategies that we adopt a similar program in our own jails to ensure that every person who is released from our jail system has a plan as to where they're going to go next. And this is done in many times in partnership with various nonprofit organizations who have developed relationships with various landlords who have, in some cases, master lease agreements to ensure that that person has a plan once they exit. And as far as the training program, the city currently has an effective partnership with mental health. We're proposing expanding the notion of a nurse practitioner program through the fire department so that the response is one that is more appropriate. And then, of course, expanding the capacity of coordinated entry system so that as often as possible, a response is done in coordination with a provider that can link that individual to long-term permanent supportive housing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go now to Ms. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I also want to thank the Homeless and Poverty Committee for your outstanding work, Mr. Weezer and Mr. Harris-Dawson. And I also want to recognize the work of both the CLA's office and the CEO's office. As you know, I've been very passionate about this issue over the last couple of months. As we discuss the strategy moving forward in terms of how we're going to fund it, I just want to make it clear that I believe that the crisis of homelessness affects all of us. Every single one of the people that we represent in our districts, it's touched every single one of our districts. And I also believe that it's the city's social and moral obligation to try to, assist individuals who find themselves in these circumstances and who want to seek help. But at the same time, I also believe that we also have the obligation to support kids and seniors and families who, in our neighborhoods, are also being touched and affected and impacted by the circumstances of those folks who find themselves homeless. So I want to make sure that there's a balance during this conversation and that the 62 strategies in this report, and that we're also being honest with the public. We're not, and by what I mean honest, is that we're not going to find the money overnight to fund these 62 strategies, but that we recognize that we're also are not promising the citizens of Los Angeles a new Los Angeles overnight. It's very difficult to do that, especially with the amount of money that it's going to cost us to implement some of these recommendations. But I do believe that this is an opportunity for us to promise Angelenos that we're committed to making the city an example of humanity, dignity, and respect for folks who find themselves in these circumstances. So I no longer want to, that no longer will women who find themselves homeless have an overwhelming sense of vulnerability because they don't have a roof over their heads, and that children and families who play in our parks, that they also aren't fearful that it isn't safe to play in their own neighborhood parks. So creating that balance, I think, is very, very important, and that hopefully that it's no longer okay that certain parts of the city carry the weight of these issues on their shoulders, while other parts of our city simply send their challenges elsewhere. And that's something that I've been incredibly outspoken about. So I've circulated a number of amendments to today's 62 recommendations. And so it's my hope that we continue the conversation, but at the same time, that we continue the commitment down this road. And I ask that we continue to be guided by the spirit of equality and shared responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Well said. Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to invite Recreation and Parks up for a brief moment in relation to item 7, since we're covering all these.
Just come get a seat, guys.
So this is in relation to the El Nino Emergency Protocol, and this is the trigger as a very last resort, it's increasingly unlikely that we'll trigger this $2.1 million that we're talking about in item 7 here. But it is in line with following the city charter in relation to recreation and parks facilities being a last resort for the assistance of homeless individuals in the case of a catastrophe. And that's why I wanted you to just kind of talk a little bit about that and just kind of explain for the record what this is all about. And then I'm going to just have one question for you. Please.
Thank you, Councilman. Kevin Regan, Assistant General Manager, Department of Recreation and Parks, and I have with me Jimmy Kim, who's with Recreation and Parks Emergency Management Section. So in response to the El Nino situation, expected heavy rains and low temperatures, the Department of Recreation and Parks, in collaboration with Council and the Mayor's Office, developed a plan with Emergency Management Department, LASA, CAO, and others to be able to activate recreation and park shelters in the event that they're needed in these sustained inclement weather periods. So essentially what happens is there's this, it's sort of an augmented shelter program. There's sheltering taking place already in these periods of heavy rain or cold. If those shelters fill up, then the county also has an activation. They're really like the second echelon. So county has opened parks and armories. That has happened a couple of times so far this winter. If the county's capacity starts to reach 80%, then recreation and parks would become ready for activation. And we have identified 5 shelters that meet ADA standards and other requirements for this type of sheltering activity. So those shelters are on standby. And if we have a period of heavy rain, very low temperatures over a sustained period of time, if the county shelters, if the LASA shelters and then the county shelters fill up, Recreation and Parks Department for the city is ready to stand up 5 shelters. When that happens, just so the council is aware, the normal activities at that recreation center would stop, and it would shift to complete sheltering operations. LASA would be the service provider, so really LASA would be doing all the intake of the various clients, dealing with the bedding, feeding, medical care, psychological issues, security, etc. Recreation and Parks would be providing the buildings, making sure the physical plant is operating properly, and then providing some maintenance during the activation. At the end of the activation, there would be a period of time to completely clean the rec center before it returns to normal operations, and that's really how the plan works.
Thank you. Jimmy, did you want to add anything?
I think the question, Jimmy Kim, Rec and Parks Emergency Management Coordinator, I believe the question was about what the department's role is in a local emergency. So under the city charter, per the administrative code, the Department of Recreation and Parks, we are the chief of the Public Welfare and Sheltering Branch of the Emergency Operations Board. And as such, we are designated as the department that will provide emergency shelters during local emergencies for people that are rendered homeless. So definitely that is what we do in the department.
Thank you. And colleagues, I just want to reiterate that Recreation and Parks is fully prepared. They're working very closely with the Emergency Management Department and LASA should this last resort trigger. It's hard to believe we're talking about it when it's 90 degrees outside and sunny, and all of us want to be at the beach during El Nino, but you never know. March could bring some showers, so we'll be prepared. And it's my understanding that a committee will be formed in terms of how to disperse this $2.1 million, made up of CLA, CAO, Mayor's Office, City Council President's Office, I believe. Is that right?
The chair of.
Chair. Okay. Chair of Homeless. Thank you. And so it's that body that will decide on exactly the disbursement of those funds should it trigger. And of course, it's going to be of great concern on making sure that money is well spent. But we'll all be part of that conversation. So, thank you for the explanation,
Mr. Bloomfield.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to echo all of my colleagues in thanking all of you for the hard work in putting this together. It's nice to see all the work that's been put into this, and I know that the real work is ahead of us. as we sort of go through the implementation and figuring it out, and sort of the public interaction that's going to have to come with some of the more difficult elements in terms of density and other issues that we're going to have to be discussing in our communities to make real and to get that priority, whether it's through the ballot or something else, ensconced into law or getting people to vote for it. One thing I think is great about just today, about having the strategy, and I wanted to get you to talk about it, has to do with grants. We've been looking at grants in my committee, and one of the things we've talking to different department and general managers is that when there's a comprehensive strategy, that often helps us go out and get more grants. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how this strategy, may influence or assist us in going after additional state, federal, or other grants to help us in this initiative?
Well, I think the first thing is that it is comprehensive and it's consistent with federal guidelines on homelessness, and it hits a lot of the priorities that the federal government has established on addressing homelessness on a national level. We've all seen that the state is taking up how they could invest in this area, and part of their consideration is consistent with what we've laid out in terms of investing in housing, both through a voucher program as well as building permanent supportive housing. And then I've spoken to foundations in particular who have expressed a tremendous amount of interest in helping fund the establishment of housing, particularly for purposes of acquisition and for rehabbing existing housing stock. And so with the fact that we now have, through your adoption, a comprehensive strategy, then other state, federal, private foundation could find ways to link and leverage the investment that the city makes.
Good question. Okay, Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you. I know my time run out, but I want to go back to Mr. Williams, 7th and Gaffney, and bring you back to that scenario. Here we have a case of balancing the needs of Mr. Williams with balancing the issue of public safety and public health. I feel what's before us today, of course, we continue to battle these encampments and tents up and down every corner of the city of Los Angeles. And because of the several lawsuits, the city has taken a very hands-off approach the past few years as it relates to the expansion of encampments and excess property in our public spaces. I realize this report focuses on addressing the causes of homelessness, but in order to get the support and buy-in of our housed residents that pay the majority of our taxes, I think we need we need to recognize that that we are working to address the impacts of homelessness and the quality of life issues. So can you share with us what is the strategy to start cleaning up the mix of trash and legitimate personal property on our streets? And 2, has any study been done on how much it would cost to clean up of all excess property over 60-gallon per person limit established by the forthcoming 5611 ordinance, and the amount of time it will take?
Well, there's a number of strategies. As I indicated at the beginning, nearly half of all the strategies seek to address the immediate crisis by building capacity of housing, shelter, as well as investing in the infrastructure of temporary storage, restrooms, creating a mechanism for mobile shelters. But ultimately, what it would take will be connecting Mr. Williams to housing. And at the center of the coordinated entry system is really a philosophy of compassionate persistence. It's this idea that most homeless individuals, when approached at the level that they're at in a compassionate but persistent manner, will in fact move into housing if there is a mechanism to lead them there. And so that that approach will ultimately help Mr. Williams and the hundreds like him enter housing, as long as that there is a system of a voucher and a program and an individual to carry him through. And so, but while that's being developed, there are a number of strategies to address the quality of life. Now, in terms of your question on the overall cost, we have not made that assessment of what it would take to deal with all the encampments. The protocols that are being worked on today are intended to establish a balanced approach to addressing the needs of the issues of encampments in the community, and balancing them with services, but at the same time making the neighborhoods accessible for the rest of the community.
Great. Sharon?
Combined with that is also a direction to staff to develop and look for additional storage facilities. So to the extent that there is additional funding to provide storage facilities, that actually would reduce the amount of personal belongings that are in the public right away and reduce the need for cleanings. So that's also part of the report back, and LAHSA has already been instructed to report back to you on that.
Appreciate that. Again, it's evident that the most visible problem that we're seeing today in the homelessness are the tents and encampments. And I'm looking forward to moving on the ordinance of 5611. I understand Mr. Harris Dawson and Mr. Weezer will be hearing that item. It came out of Public Works with a couple of recommendations. We'll be hearing that item in the Homelessness Committee as well. And I appreciate both co-chairs that will be agendizing 5611. And that's, I feel, if we're really going to touch the minds and the hearts of these individuals, we need to get them out of those encampments, get them out of those tents, and get them in contact with the service providers who are working diligently in our streets today in the city of Los Angeles. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to rise to tease out a bit the issue of the encampments and say a few words. There's sort of a sentiment that we have the encampments because of court cases that have left us with the situation. That's actually not true. We have the encampments because we have failed to provide the types of things that we're calling for in the strategy report. The courts have said until we do that, we have to have encampments. We have to let people sleep on the street. The courts have consistently said that we've been failing to step up, and today is where I hope we begin to legitimately step up. We have looked at folks in encampments, and we've heard it, and it's sort of a subtext in many of our conversations, and said they're all service resistant, they don't want help, why are we wasting our time? And the fact of the matter is, I think the courts have pointed this out, that it is no more appropriate to come up with a strategy and solutions for homelessness based on the fact that a small but visible number of people are service resistant than it is to dictate federal funding for cancer research based on the fact that there are a handful of people who will refuse to accept chemotherapy or a cancer treatment. And what we have, I think, acknowledged in this report is that we have a role to play in causing people to be service resistant by having shelters that throw you out at 6 in the morning, by having shelters that split you up from your partner if you're opposite sex, by having shelters that put frightened teens in with grizzled older folks, by having shelters that don't let you take insufficient belongings so that you need to leave them on the street and have them stolen, by having shelters that don't let you bring in an animal that may be your only protection or companionship. We have failed, and we have given folks reason to be service resistant or service reluctant. And one of the things I think we do here in this report is we talk about changing the way our shelters are and turning them more into bridge housing, where they're more welcome centers, so that we acknowledge what our role is in creating service resistance and do what we can to eliminate it so that everybody has the opportunity to avail themselves of the long-term solutions that we're creating. So I wanted to, again, acknowledge that that's a very important part of this plan, and I think it's one of the things that will help it be successful if we muster the will to implement it. Thank you.
Mr. Harris Dawson.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all the members who testified and have been a part of this process. All of us are in a position where the impact of this problem is right in our faces. And so all of us have encampments on one corner or another, under one freeway pass or another, and the voters, frankly, are demanding from us a solution. And one thing you could do is take the scab and put a Band-Aid over the scab and pretend as if the problem's being dealt with. Or you can actually pursue healing so that the whole thing is taken care of, and you don't have to worry that you're just pushing people from one corner to another or from one overpass to the other. And so, again, I think this gets us started and gets us going in the right direction. There are a number of amendments that have been circulated that are friendly as far as the chair and I are concerned. And so with that, we ask for and are prepared for a positive vote on this matter.
Okay, I think Mr. Weezer, did you want to? Okay, so you're good. So before we vote, I do want to indicate that there have been amendments. Anything that, and report backs, anything that comes back that has a dollar amount attached to that will be referred to Budget and Finance. Okay, so with that said, Madam Clerk, we vote on item 6 first, or how do you want to proceed?
Yes, Mr. President, Council should first vote on item 6 as amended by motion 6A through 6L.
Okay, then let us open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay, continue. What's next?
Next, Council should vote on items 7 and 14.
Okay, on those items, let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
That brings us where?
Mr. President, the next item is item 5.
Okay, just so people know, the items where it relates to the Homeless and Poverty Committee have been approved. So those items were approved, okay? Now we move to item 5.
Yes, and amending motion 5A has been circulated.
Okay, then let us prepare to vote on item 5. Let's open the roll. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay. Good job, people. Good job.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we're going to move on to general public comment. First speaker is Danny, general public comment. Danny, is anyone here? Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
General public comment.
Yeah. Council members and City Attorney in particular, I want to, in the aftermath of Friday's council meeting, particularly to Dion, to keep something in mind from the federal court. It is unconstitutional to restrict speakers from making personal attacks in city council meetings. It chills speech. So Dion, please keep in mind that personal attacks in city council against public figures in one shape or another is constitutional. I want to be very clear that Mr. Wesson and I think Mr. Englander now understand what it's like to expect an apology and not receive one. I am still waiting for mine and my time to be restored so we can go on to other business. Again, keep in mind personal attacks are constitutional. Thank you.
Next speaker, Maureen Chris Halikis. Anyone here by that name? Last name Halikis? I see none. Next speaker is Patricia McAllister, followed by Mr. Walsh.
I was denied my right to speak on number 6 because I think we need a federal investigative audit by the federal government. Now, all of this hullabaloo right here, it's about money. You knew about this homeless problem before I came here and started exposing you. I attended those meetings, the housing committee meetings. I'm a teacher. So when I go into meetings, I'm looking at you like you're a student. This committee was unqualified. They didn't know anything. How do I know? The questions they were asking. I knew more than they knew. And I told them that, and some of them got quiet. They don't know what's going on. Now, all of this money transferring, this is nothing but embezzlement. It's nothing but embezzlement and racketeering. Get ready to start. Your mayor claims he spent $100 million on the homeless, and they're laying on the street. We need an investigation. You're stealing money, I believe, and we want most of you to go to prison. It's a darn shame what you're doing, what you did today, and you hushed me up.
Next speaker is Mr. Walsh, followed by Don Garza.
John Walsh at HollywoodHighlands.org. It's almost empty here because about 250 people have left the room. That is the Poverty Pimp Homeless Coalition. Their nightmare is that homelessness might actually disappear, because if it disappears, they're out of a job. Nobody but Englander for a supervisor, and the Neighborhood Integrity Initiative is passing around. Please sign it. What this will do is stop the myth that you can build rail with huge skyscrapers around them, and everyone will take the subway, and poverty and everything will be eliminated. You saw what it said in the LA Times. Over the last 30 years, there were more people taking bus only 30 years ago or 40 years ago than are taking bus and rail now.
Next speaker is Don Garza, followed by David Cheney.
I don't know what I'm going to talk about right now. I mean, I got about, a minute, but I already know what I'm going to talk about. We need this armory opened up. I warned Jose Huizar in December. I warned Jose Huizar in August of last year. And I'm going to warn you guys again right now. And I'm going to warn Jose Huizar even though he's not in this room. Psychologically, the people on the street don't see any rain. The first night it rains all night long, we're going to have exposure casualties. You do not understand the dynamics of homelessness. You do not understand the dynamics of the people living in the street. If we have another person die of exposure in the street, I'm going to make it my life's work to remind Mr. Huizar that he is negligent and he should be prosecuted for a crime of murder.
Next speaker is David Cheney. He left. Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Eric Previn. Mr. Previn, are you here? Mr. Previn is not in chambers. Next is Candace Graham. Candace Graham, are you here? Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. More than a pleasure being with you. Unfortunately, I've been coming back and forth for about 4 years or more to bring you the news of this calamity before it happened. We had over 85,000 homeless people east of the 10 freeway at that time. Now we have close to 150,000. It is a dramatic difference. Not only are we faced with the grapes of wrath here and more people coming to Los Angeles, which will never be addressed by the homeless issue and the things that are brought forward to you, HCILA, H-C-I-L-A, is under investigation by the FBI. The department, I forgot what the other department is, Camilla Harris and those guys. I tried to get you guys to see that. We have over 100,000 different property owners, which would greatly solve your problem to be able to help with the housing program here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Oscar Muhammad. Mr. Muhammad, are you here? Followed by Bill Huey. Good afternoon, sir.
My name is Oscar Muhammad. I was denied to speak on item 7 pertaining to the homeless. I was denied speaking. I was discriminated upon. But anyway, William Penn is a black man that the state of Pennsylvania is named behind. William Penn said the people must be governed by God if don't transfer the rule. We should end discrimination in politics. Every God said it is a very, very racist mayor. He shouldn't have no authority over black people. The homeless people in America should have authority over them through the African American, Muslim, Islamic religious leadership, Imam Wajdi Muhammad. And they got a program called Mars Care in Chicago that if an African American wants employment, he must come to Chicago to be affiliated with the Mars Care and he can find employment. We should find a way to end poverty in America, especially around the African American people, though. We need better leadership.
Thank you, sir. Bill Huey, followed by Ira Belgrade.
Good morning, members of the LA City Council. My name is Bill Huey. I'm the president of Fair Housing Coalition. And in all this talk about the homeless today, no one ever said, how did we get here? Where did all these homeless people come from? I can tell you, for the last 15 years, the LA Housing Department has waged war on mom and pop landlords. It's very hard to really maintain a building when you're collecting 1/3 of fair market value rent because of rent control. So what happens is landlords have been prosecuted in court. The word is spread across the city, and landlords who own the older buildings are selling them to developers who are tearing them down and putting new in buildings. Now, when you're used to paying $400 a month for a one-bedroom apartment, you can't afford a $1,400 a month apartment. So the city has to reach out to these landlords, stop prosecuting them over minor code violations like peeling paint and helping them stay in business so more people don't end up in the street. We've lost 200,000 apartments to the wrecking ball in the last 15 years because of Mercedes Marquez.
The next speaker is Ira Belgrade, followed by Marisol Vieira. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Ira Belgrade, and I have a fully up-to-code illegal accessory dwelling unit in an R1 zone in Councilman Rue's district. This unit has been helping me pay my mortgage and keep my family in our home of 18 years, while also providing high-quality below-market housing in Los Angeles. My unit and many more like it should be approved without the burdensome process of applying for a variance. And AB 1866 says I shouldn't have to. I believe that my unit is exactly the type of unit the legislature was envisioning when they wrote AB 1866. I shouldn't have to pay the city $15,000 for variance fees and be subject to public hearings and public scrutiny, especially when I have the support of my abutting homeowners and the support of my homeowners association. If the city of Los Angeles is going to make a dent in the housing shortage, the city should start by helping, not hindering people like me. I urge the City Council to start thinking out of the box on how to make AB 1866 work in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Marisol Vieira.
Yes. Good afternoon, Ms. Martinez, and everybody sitting here on the panel. I just wanted to bring something up to everybody's attention as everybody was sitting here talking about the homelessness problems that we're having here in the city of LA. Somebody here orchestrated the sanitation department to go and tow all the houses that Elvis Summers built. How are we supposed to come up with a solution while we're all sitting here and talking about it? All the little houses that were built off the 110 freeway are being towed right now as speaking. I'm really upset. I'm a taxpayer. This guy put in a lot of money to build these little houses. Obviously, this is something that we're trying to resolve. So if that's the case, why are they being towed? I don't know who orchestrated these shenanigans, but this is ridiculous. This is so hypocritical for somebody to do this at this point. We're sitting here talking about homelessness while your city is towing these little houses that are off the 110 freeway. Now, all those people are laying on the side of the road with all their stuff. So who's going to fix that problem? Huh?
Thank you. That concludes public comment. Members, are there any announcements?
And Madam President, Council has motions for posting and referral.
Posted and referred.
Announcement, Madam President.
Yes, Mr. Price?
The Economic Development Committee will meet at 1:45. 1:45, Economic Development. Thank you. 10th floor.
What else is before us, Madam Clerk? Mr. O'Farrell, did you have an announcement? Anyone else? Any announcements? Seeing none, can we all please rise for adjourning motions? To my right, are there any adjourning motions? Mr. Roop?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today I'd like to adjourn in the memory of Edwin Kahn, who passed away February 5th at the age of 93. And I know the County of Los Angeles is also doing an adjournment today. He's the husband of our good friend Mariko Kahn, who's the former APCON, Asian Pacific Policy and Planning Council's former president. Edwin was born on June 3rd, 1922 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to Helen and Ted Kahn. Ed grew up in Los Angeles and graduated from Fairfax High School, UCLA, and UC Berkeley. At the outbreak of World War II, he enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Force and served as a B-24 bomber pilot in the 89th Air Force and as an Air Force flight instructor. After the war, Ed served as a registered professional engineer and licensed general contractor. He retired after 40 years as a real estate developer and as president of Kahn Construction Company, Contractors and Engineers. He had a commercial pilot's license and served as a docent at the original Museum of Flying in Santa Monica. Ed was a member of the Masons, the Scottish Rites, the Shriners, the Commemorative Air Force, the Air Force Association, and the American Society of Civil Engineers. Ed is survived by his wife and best friend, Mariko, sons Greg and Winston, and daughter Julia, stepdaughters Pam Kroshar and Andrea Lusgarten, stepbrothers Mitchell Barnow and Dale Leninger, and his stepchildren Shelby Powell, Kimberly Kroshar, Brandon, and Rachel Lusgarten. In lieu of flowers, please send donations to Perfect Pet Rescues at P.O. Box 24099, Los Angeles, California 90024, where Ed and Mariko rescued their beloved Maya and Corey, or to the Asian Pacific Counseling Services at 8616 La Tierra Boulevard, Suite 200, Los Angeles, California 90045. Thank you, and may all our thoughts and prayers be today with the family and friends of Edwin Kahn. May you rest in peace.
Thank you, Mr. Root. Any other adjourning motions? Seeing none, that concludes our meeting. Our meeting is adjourned. Have a good afternoon.
You're watching LA City View, Channel 35.
We now join our scheduled program in progress.
Held by a solid fuel rocket motor is released from a special opening on top of the fuselage. 3 Kevlar straps connect the parachute to the airframe and help slow the aircraft, guiding it through a level descent. Although the parachute system already has 155 saves with ultralight aircraft, the first save in a general aviation plane came in October of 2002, with the aircraft suffering little damage and the pilot walking away from the crash with no injuries at all. So, Lisa, is this parachute system just for new aircraft, or can it be retrofitted on older planes?
Parachute system is